All right, I would like to call the meeting to order. Give me a second to get logged in. Mr. Ken Donnelly from our Student Information Services will lead us in the pledge, and that will follow a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everybody. Next item is motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Are there any? I would entertain a motion. Hint.
I will make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
And seconded by motion by Ms. Bosom, seconded by Mr. Ramirez. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. It says I'm logged in, but I'm doubtful. Right, yes.
Barbara, just give me a yes or no. Yes or no?
Just verbally.
Just verbal, just give me yes or no.
I something came up on the screen and said I had to re-log in, so that's what I was. So what are we looking at?
The agenda as presented.
Thank you, yes. I'm sorry.
Motion
You have to do
carries.
two things at once.
All right, current events. Dr. Spurgeon, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Chairman Straka. Kind of a slower month because of a spring break, but CTSO competitions are up and running. Already got some really good news. It's some of our programs that we've had some winners, and some medal winners, and I think Ms. Brown sent each of the board members a copy of the Skills USA competition from our automotive students and the $250,000 in scholarships that they were awarded and achieved there. So just really great things happening coming up. The second thing is that we continue to work on our students completing their credentials. Some are doing some now, some can't do it until the end of the program. And then our state TSA test will begin April 16th or 22nd through the 26th. So that's always a big week for our students. Moving on to other meetings, we held our third business and industry playbook meeting with some of our business partners, again, looking at ways in which we can develop the step-by-step process for business and industry to work with workforce development organizations and CTEDs. I think that's going very well. Mr. Garcia has been a part of a couple of those. I think they've gone very well. I think great conversation, good feedback for us. Also got some things in which we can improve and ways we can do things better. So it's been great conversations. We participated in a Zoom with a charter school out of Las Cruces is looking to start a CTE program. And so they've been leaning on West-MEC and our process and procedures and what we did to create a West-MEC here. And so those are great conversations. We had a GPEC ambassador event, which was a great discussion around the semiconductor industry and just the exploding growth here in Phoenix and ways in which we can continue to have them bring more suppliers and businesses to support the semiconductor industry. And we're just really proud of the fact that West-MEC really sits right in the center of that ecosystem for semiconductor technicians. We have a group, and I'll get to that here in just a second. So the next thing, I met with a Zoom call on the Arizona Education Economic Commission. has some subgroups, and one of them is the health subgroup, and Noel Trender from Banner Health is leading that one. So we had a chance to really open that discussion around healthcare systems and workforce development and pipeline. And so we think that's going to be a nice system to be able to put business and industry and workforce development folks together moving forward. We met with one of our partner schools. Mr. Strock was able to join us, looking for some expansion of some of our programs, which we're very excited about. It looks like there could be a community college interested in being in that same space with us in one of our partner districts. So it's one of my dreams is to have all three kind of in one space, which I'm hoping that can happen. I think we're going to be able to make that happen. We met again with our Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum for a follow-up. Again, we're looking to potentially allow them to use our accreditation to get their A&P program started over in Honolulu, Hawaii, and they're very excited about that. So we're still taking it step by step, working with our attorneys to make sure we cross our T's and dot our I's. So they're very excited, and we're very excited about that. And then we, CJ and I also met with the Nashville Chamber later this month. They're bringing out over 100 folks from Nashville to begin looking at the semiconductor industry and what's happening in Phoenix and how they can become a part of that. So West-MEC and myself are going to be a part of that panel discussion around getting them off and running and looking at the semiconductor industry. So with that being said, just a lot of things happening right now. I'm very excited about the CTO competitions and very excited to see how our kids will do once again on our state technical skills assessment. So exciting times.
Other board members, I'll start. Mr. Garcia, we can just work around.
Yes.
Well, this last Saturday, I went to a homeless camp. It's on 24th Avenue and Sweetwater. And a friend of mine has started a 501c nonprofit. It's called Trooper Care Network, and they treat the wounds of homeless. And one of our West-MEC students has been going down there for about a year and a half, every single weekend to help the unfortunate and treating their wounds and stuff like that. So I wanted to go down there and see how he's progressing and stuff like that, because he's due to graduate. And so I sent an email yesterday to Sparenta and Stephen and Jarrett Guy to see if maybe there was something we could do to give him a special kind of recognition or award or something like that. And Sparenta said, we're having an event tonight, and he is going to be a student speaker. And he is going to be in the induction ceremony for the National Technical Honor Society. So I got dressed and went and stuff like that. And there were 55 West-MEC students, from all kinds of different classes and stuff. And Wyatt Bromley is his name. He got up and spoke and things like that. And, all of the kids, they were just amazing, but he's always going to have a special place in my heart. And so I wanted to share that with you guys.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I just want to thank Ms. Brown for putting together a conference call, Mr. Strake and myself, and our new CFO to discuss the attorney issue that I brought up. And we don't need a board member agenda item. I understand that there's a list from the trust we can pick from. And I just suggested that we look at that list. We went over some possibilities when the time's right, that we give Ms. Mays and Dr. Spurgeon and Mr. Straka, just use who you need, who has a specialty in the area we need. So, thank you.
Only thing is, I don't know if we had mentioned this before or not, but we have a jobs board for our students, and our law firm is looking forward to posting some job openings there. But if anyone here didn't know that we had a jobs board, just wanted to let you guys know about that in case we've forgotten about it. Yeah.
And I would just piggyback on what Dr. Spurgeon said about Paradise Valley and Vista Verde Elementary School. Paradise Valley is, I think, breaking the mold. They're closing 4 schools. They're not going to be the only district. And I think, let's find a good model, because this won't be our only opportunity in the next few years. Right. And just being able to, especially Paradise Valley, we don't have any presence in Paradise Valley, but Paradise Valley represents over 20% of our tax base. So it's really important to have a presence there and get them engaged in what we do.
Great location too. Good location.
All right.
Thanks, sir.
Hearing nothing else, we'll move on to call to the public. The statement is here and I believe it's back on the back table, so I'm not going to read it, but basically, if anyone would like to address the board, we can direct staff but not discuss. Is there any requests from the public? I don't have anything. I'll make a second call. Any call to the public? I have to make 3 calls. Third and final. I'm not hearing anything. We will move on to section D. Recognitions and celebrations.
Thank you and good evening, Chairperson Straka, governing board members, Dr. Spurgeon. What an honor it is to come before you tonight and talk about recognitions and celebrate some of our own. You know, one of the things that I'm passionate about career and technical education is it's so closely tied to the American dream and it's so closely tied to making our community a better place. That absolutely happens through technical and professional skills and preparing young people to accomplish their dreams and gain economic independence. But it also happens through just bettering our community, which is why I love the story that Linda Bosom was sharing earlier about one of our students. That's what we teach, and as we honor our second employee of the month, our second teacher of the month, I really want to introduce you to a teacher that embodies that. This idea of if you want your community to be better, you start with yourself. And Chris Judd, I'd like to ask Mr. Judd to join me and officially recognize him as our second ever, but our employee of the month, our teacher of the month. And let me tell you, because he'll earn that applause. Let me tell you about just a little bit about Chris Judd. Chris Judd came to us late in the term this year, but you know, as he looked around and he understood his own American dream and stuff and really wanting to provide that for young people and knowing that change starts with those that we see in the mirror, he decided to join the troops, leave a lucrative position to come and help teach within our water program and really provide young people the skill set so they can achieve to economic independence in that same career pathway in that same water industry that's so important to all of us. In addition, Chris at the time was serving as vice mayor of Surprise, so he also really strengthened our relationships and our ties with the city of Surprise, which we celebrate just a fantastic partnership. They've been incredibly supportive of our adult education arm, and we appreciate all they're doing, and that in part is to what this gentleman before us has done. So not only does he give to his students every day, but he's really amped up work-based learning in that program. Every week, there are different folks from the industry that come in. So, you know, our students see the career tree, but Chris is bringing it to life by having different branches being able to come in and talk every day so kids can really understand what those pathways look like. He has secured not only internships, but paid internships. That's like the unicorn in CTE, is to get actual money to our kids. So all of this Chris has done in this first year with us and just has made an incredible difference and is very worthy of this celebration tonight. So Chris, we thank you, for what you're doing. I think we're gonna get a picture with you. Let's see, back the photo up.
Yeah.
I just realized I have my other shirt and I didn't change. It's like you're running to put on.
Okay, that sounds perfect.
Oh,
Okay, perfect.
you have.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Yeah.
I'm sure we're the short people.
Okay. You guys stand right here, Chris, and I'll hide in the back.
Oh,
It's such a great story, guys.
no.
They were telling me that you were there last night too. Boy, we come back here, let me get in the back. You guys get up.
We get to give them this.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And of course, everybody loves a pen.
All right.
What you think how it affects your life?
Yeah, I could, well, sure.
Well, after the picture.
1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Thanks, Chris. Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll invite Chris to, comment on this transition he's made to teaching and the successes he's had.
Yeah, dude. Who am I addressing?
You're addressing the board.
Okay. Well, thank you. This is a very nice surprise. I'm
not a teacher, at least I wasn't a teacher until September, October this year, so it's been really exciting for me. It was a little scary. And my primary goal with coming into this was just to get my students hired. There's a big need in the water industry and even though I wasn't much of a teacher, my background wasn't all that great in water. I had all the contacts in water and I've just called everyone that I've known and said, hey, I need help. Don't know much about what I'm doing. Help me as much as you can. And in engaging all these partners, they've come through, they've helped with instruction, and more importantly, they've come through with internships and paid positions for my students as they come out. So my goal is every student that wants a job is gonna have a job at the end of the semester. My juniors who are gonna, come back as seniors next year will get the internships ideally, and then the seniors will go off and get a job in the career field. So this is a nice surprise. I really appreciate this and thank you all for your service on this board.
Yeah, thanks for your celebration of Chris. He just really embodies what all of our teachers, the passion they bring to the classroom every day and work-based learning experiences that they create. As the second and final celebration is one that's really meaningful to me. And I tell you, this morning, I knew it'd be a long day. I needed the energy, so I went for a nice run, and my knee just isn't what it used to be. And I was wishing I was younger. But I tell you, the real reason I wished I was younger is I wish I had 10 more years to work under and learn from Dr. Scott Spurgeon, because what the Phoenix Business Journal has declared and announced is something that we all know and feel very, very much here at West-MEC, and that is that Dr. Scott Spurgeon has been announced as one of the most admired leaders, and that will be in the May 10th publication. So there'll be a long line to get that publication. So make sure you get to the newsstands early, because we're looking forward to seeing it. And it will really highlight the passion that Dr. Spurgeon has brought to career and technical education, not only here at West-MEC, but for the state. He really is a guiding force in workforce development, again, not just in the West Valley, but really statewide in the work that he's doing, and creates the culture that allows teachers like Chris Judd that we celebrated tonight and Haley Adams last month to really flourish and do what they're doing with students. So please join me in celebrating Dr. Spurgeon on this announcement. With that, thank you, board. Thank you sincerely, Dr. Spurgeon, for the opportunity to work with you. This is well deserved.
Next is the West-MEC Alliance. I believe Mr. Angelo Rossetti.
Yes,
Come on up.
well, thank you, Dr. Spurgeon and board members, for giving me the opportunity to share a couple of minutes with you about what the West-MEC Alliance is and what our goals and mission and future plans are. So the mission of the West-MEC Alliance is to raise funds to give back to West-MEC for students who want to attend West-MEC. So when I go and I make a presentation to a chamber meeting or a not-for-profit like a Rotary Club or a Kiwanis Club, I always start off by saying, hey, West-MEC is a public school district, and students that attend West-MEC do not pay tuition. You're paying it through your taxes. But those students do incur some costs, and the focus of the Alliance is to alleviate those costs, whether it's certification exams, toolkits, uniforms, entry-level toolkits. Those are the kind of things that West-MEC Alliance raises funds for. Our vision is that all students in the West-MEC program will have the support, resources, and opportunities they need to be successful in their lives. So I'm here representing tonight all of the board members of the Alliance. And how do I advance this?
There's a little.
Is there a clicker? Oh,
You
sorry.
just need to hit this button for the next slide right there.
Okay, thank you. So, like I said, I'm here representing all the members of the West-MEC Alliance Board of Directors. Here's a list of them. You can look at them. You can see that they're all companies that support West-MEC, and individuals who are engaged in the community and engaged in different aspects of the educational world. So West-MEC Alliance is recognized as by the IRS as a 501c3, and that recognition came on February 16, 2010. So the question is, what has the Alliance done for West-MEC? So I've got a financial impact statement here where we look back over the last couple of years and actually the last 4 years and saw how much money we raised and how it was given back to West-MEC and in what capacity. So that money was given back to student services. The money was given back to career services. We fund the summer exploration camp that is at different campuses. We do the t-shirts for the exploration camp. And then we gave, one of the key things we did is we gave donations to students impacted by the Southwest Valley flood a couple of years ago. And those were students who lost their clothing and lost their uniforms. We wanted to make sure that they can attend class and not feel as an outsider. We raised that money through two fundraisers, two major fundraisers. We call it our 2-for-1. Our first fundraiser is in fall, and that's a Top Golf fundraising. And we have all the companies that are supporters. We invite people in, government officials, anyone who wants to support, we send them an invitation. They come in, and there is a matrix that they donate a certain dollar amount to be listed as a sponsor, as you can see on that sponsor sheet. Or they also bring gift cards, or they also bring gifts that we can use for our raffle. Our other event is a bowling tournament, and those are several of the board members having a great time at the main event at bowling. And we host that event as you can see at main event. So the question is, what's the West-MEC Alliance's plans for the future? So this is something, and this is hot off the press, something that the group has discussed. It's not been implemented fully, but the group said, yeah, this sounds like things we want to look at. One of them is to establish a legacy fund with the Arizona Community Foundation. Purpose of that is it helps us be able to solicit funds from the general public. We are looking and have spoken to the United Way about an employee contribution program. They'll set it up with us. It could be for West-MEC employees, or it could be for any of our partner companies who have that ability to do the United Way at their place of work. We are looking at establishing an annual fundraiser similar to the Tucson Rotary Classic Car Show and Auction. You can go online and look that up. They raise north of a couple of $100,000 every year with a car show and auction and gala. It did start that way. It started small, but they have ramped it up now, and they've given over $500,000 every year to all the not-for-profits in the area. Our hope is to be able to do it. I'm a Rotarian. I'm in conversation with them about, hey guys, can you take me under the wing and explain to me how we do this? We want to continue to expand our circle of corporate sponsors. So you saw by the list of board members that we do have a lot of corporate sponsors, and then we're going to continue to pursue grant opportunities. How can someone help? So like I said, I use this presentation when I go to chamber meetings and different community events. And I tell people you can help by sponsor, volunteer, or donate. You can participate in an Alliance event. You can consider making a one-time or reoccurring donation. We have that ability on our website. You can donate to our silent auction or raffle. You can connect us with new sponsors. So some companies will say, have you spoken to this person? We'll reach out to them. You can connect us, and this again, I'm showing this to our potential sponsors or current sponsors. You can connect us with your HR department so we can establish an employee payroll deduction program, and you can continue to share us on social media. This is a partial list of some of the sponsors we've had in the last couple of years. And this is not complete. It's kind of ran out of space on the slide. There are many others. And with that being said, I want to thank everyone here for the opportunity to present about what the West-MEC Alliance does. And for me personally, and I think I speak for all the board members, it's a great opportunity to give back to the community. My roots go back to CTE a long time ago, before I had this white beard, and it was coming in dark. But back in New York, when and my roots are CTE. I think I started out as what was known back then as a shop teacher. Then I was a CTE teacher. And then I went into the school systems and I set up labs. I did that for 25 years with a private company, my company. And then, so my background goes back to when my mom dropped me off on the steps of PS 85 in Astoria, Queens. And I looked up the stairs. I was about that tall. The stairs went up like, that was the whole building. And I passed that building whenever I go back to New York, and I looked up those stairs and, was scared because going to school now. But anyway, that's my education, was to go back to that point in time, and I was 6 years old. And trust me, I am nowhere near 6 years old. You'd have to get a 0 plus another digit to that to come close. So with that being said, I'm going to ask you to please accept our invitation to attend our 2-for-1 event. It's corporate sponsored. So and I always extend an invitation to anyone who can become a future sponsor. So those invitations go out, and I continue to solicit people to become sponsors. And it's an easy ask because they see the value of this. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for this opportunity. And I hope to see you on April 11th at the main event. Come bowl, have a bite to eat, have a beverage. We do have soft drinks. We do also have adult beverages if you choose to have that. Let me know if you're gonna come, and we'll put you on a team if you want to bowl, or you can go for it for 15, 20 minutes, an hour or two. But that invitation is standing for you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would just add to that, I served on the Alliance when it started with Diane McCarthy back in 2009. It took us a year to get the 5013C, and I served through last year. It was really helpful to have a board member so that we could explain what's coming up with West-MEC to help them plan on donations and everything. I've served for 12 or 13 years. I would encourage a different board member who would like to volunteer to serve on the Alliance to kind of represent the governing board, because it would be helpful. So don't all jump at once, just talk to Louisa if you'd like to volunteer.
Meetings are typically once a month, from 11 to 12, 12:15, so it's pretty quick, but good conversations. And I try to keep them as updated as I can to things that are happening, so it'd be nice to have one of you on board if you'd like to.
Moving on, I'm really excited that we have this on here, is the Immersion Labs demonstration. We heard a little bit of the last month, I think Barbara attended, and so Dr. Spurgeon, take it away.
Thank you, Chairman Straka. So Peter Bazinski is here. So Peter, if you want to come up, and then Amanda Farmer is also here. She's going to be one of our demonstration participants. But Peter is the president of Immersion Labs from Poland. And we met for the first time at the Arizona Education Economic Commission, where he brought his technology to the commission, looking to bridge the gap between AI technology, career tech education, and business and industry, because we know there are ways in which we can do things better and more efficient and faster. And I was completely impressed with the work that he brought forth to us. And then he did a demonstration at the Northwest campus with Ms. Farmer. And so I asked him to come this evening so you can see for yourself the latest and greatest technology that's happening out there and what benefit it could have for West-MEC down the road at some point in time. So Peter, it's all yours.
Great. So.
Okay, so hello everyone. Hello. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a great honor to be here. I'm a big fan of your institution. I launched my company Immersion to bring something new to the education. I had a major crisis of faith when it comes to education in general in my home continent. And I have to say that when Dr. Spurgeon gave me a tour around this place, it gave me a lot of this hope back. This place is really incredible. And it looks like someone envisioned a perfect school. So I'm really excited that I have the opportunity to present this to you. I want to start with saying a few things about my company, Immersion Labs. I launched the company in 2014, and the company specializes in utilizing virtual reality, artificial intelligence, AI, AR, and many sort of gamified technologies to improve education and to teach and train through interaction. And we work mostly with US-based companies. We are closely partnered with Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. We worked in the past with NASA, with Museum of Natural History in New York. We've built multiple projects with the Smithsonian Institute. Right now we started working here in Arizona with some of the large companies like Raytheon and few others. And our I think common denominator is that we try to use interactive technologies and gaming technologies to solve real life problems. And one of the biggest revolutions that happened over the last few years is the artificial intelligence. As you know, it's an incredible revolution. For us, it's even hard to describe what kind of a light speed jump into hyperspace it was. Interactive training courses that would take years to build now can be generated within minutes. And what I want to present to you today is our new technology called the Meta Coach, which is automated training system that uses immersive technologies and AI. So how it works? Basically, the idea behind this technology is that we create virtual characters that can serve various roles. They can be teachers, they can play roles of co-workers, clients, managers, anything you like. And they will only use the knowledge that you give them. So they will be only as smart as you make them. They will not hallucinate, they will not try to make things up. Which is important because I'm sure you saw that AI can say weird stuff if you ask the wrong question. The way we create those characters is first we try to understand what they need to know. We try to understand what kind of knowledge they have to give to the student. And then we fill them with all the data you can find about a particular topic. And once this is done, you can start interacting with them in a very realistic and engaging way. They can digest almost any form of data, any books, documents, conversations. You can even take a person that is a major authority in a topic and give them a microphone and let them just talk for an hour. And that information will be digested and put into the system. And today, I prepared a demo that I want to show you that basically covers virtual clients that are visiting facilities like beauty salons, hairstyling salons, and are causing trouble. And you have to use your wits and you have to actually use your knowledge and talk with them to solve the problem. So I will go straight to the demo.
So a lot of this goes along our rubrics around the professional or soft skills. Because right now it's done one-on-one with the classroom teacher and the individual student versus having everyone have access to this. I might have Mrs. Parmer here because she was the only one that solved the demo last time we did it. But that's a additional problem. She's the only one who was able to solve the module. We didn't have much luck. That's what our conversation was. I would just say shake your whole head.
So. Okay, so here we have an example. This is a lady who just came to this place and she is angry because her meeting was scheduled in the wrong way. So let's start. Hello, how can I help you?
Oh my goodness, I can't believe this is happening again. I made an appointment here after, that other place just completely destroyed my hair. And now I come in and you're telling me there's no record of my booking. I can't. I need to fix this disaster today.
Oh, I'm really sorry. You're right, we really can't find your booking. Can we reschedule you to another day and give you a discount?
I'm really bad at this, but
No, you don't understand. I can't wait another day. My hair is a mess. It's just unacceptable. I was assured I'd be taken care of today. It's just, you have to do something now.
And an important thing to know here is that none of this is pre-generated, scripted. The character uses AI and it will answer to anything you say. However, if you have a character that is a trainer, a coach, any answer you provide, anything you say will be compared to the instruction that it has, and it will give you feedback, whether you're doing a good job or not. At the same time, the virtual character can generate those virtual problems, virtual issues, based on the information it received. So it will use actual product names, actual procedures. You can even take a real life scenario, like what we do with some of our law enforcement clients is we take actual reports and we put them in the system and the character recreates that situation. So I'm going to try something more and I'm going to give it to the professional. All right, I'm really sorry. This is my first day on the job. I have this voucher that I can give you, and please don't tell my boss about it.
A voucher? I mean, that's not gonna fix my hair right now. You see what I'm dealing with here? Look at it. It's just, I'm so close to just breaking down. I need, someone to fix this today, not a voucher.
So I kind of failed, and this will go on. So can I?
Peter, you want to? Yeah, you want to?
Let's try again.
And you can make the avatars as nice or not so nice as you want.
Don't start. Hello, how can I help you?
Oh my gosh. I can't believe this is happening to me again, I mean, I come in here after that other place completely butchered my hair and I made an appointment here for today to fix this disaster. But now you're telling me there's no record of it? I don't know what to do. I am so upset right now.
I am so sorry to hear that. I definitely don't want you to be disappointed again, and I want you to feel comfortable and confident. So let me go grab a hairstylist and help her set up, and then I will be right back to take you back to.
Oh, thank you. I mean, you have no idea how much this means to me. I've been so stressed, and this just has to get fixed, like right now. Thank you, seriously.
You're so welcome. I can go ahead and take you back to your hairstylist, and we'll get you out of here as soon as possible.
Okay, that's great. I just need this to be over with, I appreciate it, really. Thank you. The scenario reached its positive endpoint.
Right, so she's making this look really easy, but in fact, the funny story is that when we first showed this, we were struggling. We actually thought you cannot fix this because we tried so many times, and you came and you fixed her in just right now, which was incredible. And we can have, thank you very much. We can have many different characters here. I have some different examples as well. For example, a patient that is coming for a visit, or a roadside encounter where you are a police officer that has to get documents from an unruly passenger. And we can create dozens of those scenarios. They do not only have to include
clients. It can also be characters like, for example, coworkers, students, colleagues, managers. One of our clients is one of the largest restaurant networks in the United States. And for them, we have very interesting scenarios. For example, you are a manager and there's an employee who comes in and he has a great idea how to improve the company, and you gotta say no. And it's very hard to say no to that guy. Just very, very, full of faith in his idea. And there are many stories like this. And what happens after the scenario is that the teacher gets a report. I'm going to show you a draft of how this report looks.
One of the things they may not show you is they can actually set it up and show you step by step of any procedure that's contained within any of the programs. So if you're looking at working on a facial, the step by step process to apply the medicine or the cosmetics or whatever, the avatar will take you through step by step, student by student, to show them the appropriate procedure for each thing that they do.
So what is important to understand in this case, this is, sorry.
I'm Alexandra Morgan, your Vapianist Meta coach.
This is much more than just those characters. This is a whole system. It's a platform where teacher has access to all the students and their performance. And after each session, there is an automatic generated report where you can see the overview of the student performance. You can see every thing that he or she said, and you can see recommendation and comments. And we also want the teachers to be able to add their own comments to this as well. And in the end, there can be some sort of a grade or performance meter. And at the end, there's also a strategy for improvement. So tips and comments on how to get better in this. And what I want to say also is that this technology is evolving extremely fast. So as I'm sure you've noticed delays in generating response, these responses get generated half as much time every 6 months. We are now working with adding a new feature which analyzes the tone of your voice, so we can also see whether you were angry or happy. So all the psychological aspects of conversations can also be included in that. It's going to be maybe a year before we're gonna also add an option for face tracking, so we'll be able to see your facial features, whether you're smiling or not. So within 2 years, this will be almost perfect. I don't want to take too much time. Question. Yeah, sure.
So would you be able to do an application like that for interviewing for a job?
Of course. We actually, I'm going to show you maybe real quick. Do I have like 2 minutes for it?
Like to see that.
That's the very same first question that I asked you about the interview process, which could be completely AI
I think
generated.
that'd be extraordinary for students to go through an interview process.
Absolutely. I mean, the beauty of this technology is that you can really create almost any characters, where any sort of scenario. I'm going to show an example of a scenario which is a bit more complicated than this from one of our existing applications. Just need to wait for the character to give me the whole initial briefing. But in the meantime, what is also important is that these characters can also generate content in real time. So you can tell them, hey, I want to train this, I want to train that, or tell me again the procedure for something. We're working with some defense contractors where we create virtual trainers that train you how to use equipment, like for example, power generator. And you can have this conversation with this character and say, hey, how do I start this generator when it rains? How do I put it in an uneven space? And it will find an answer in the data that it owns, and it will tell you, this is how you should do it.
Which of course, one of the other applications was like in the automotive area. I was talking to the instructors when Peter and Bartos came, and Brady was telling me that you spend more time researching a problem and trying to find a solution and the parts to fix the problem than you do actually fixing the problem. So this kind of technology will actually save time, which means a better and a bigger bottom line.
and you can apply more stress to the conversation. Really, it's like.
This technology is more limited. You're going to pick up that. And the avatar-
Great choice, Peter. Let's set the stage for the misguided operational innovation scenario. You're in the break room when Marco, an employee who has been with Vapiano for a short while, approaches you with a spark in his eyes. He's known for his confidence and has a tendency to be quite assertive. Marco believes he has some revolutionary ideas that could change the game for the restaurant. While his enthusiasm is commendable, his ideas are quite radical and not necessarily in line with Vapiano's brand or operational model. As a manager, it's your task to navigate this conversation. You'll need to balance acknowledging his creativity while also guiding him towards more practical and brand-aligned innovations. It's a delicate dance between not stifling his enthusiasm and ensuring that the ideas put forward are feasible and beneficial for Vapiano. How would you begin this conversation with Marco? Remember, your approach can set the tone for how receptive he will be to your guidance.
So now, Marco, this is a great idea. It's just not the best time. Maybe we can try to implement it next quarter. It's a very sad scenario, to be honest, but apparently it happens in restaurants. This is Marco. So we can see we have two characters.
And my ideas are exactly what will get people talking about Vapiano. Why wait when we could be leading the pack?
Marco, we definitely want to lead the pack, but now we have budget constraints. Can you just wait with this awesome idea?
Lead the pack?
Oops.
I think you mean lead the pack, right? Anyway, I'm telling you, these ideas will put us ahead. We can't just do what everyone else is doing. We need to be the trendsetters. Imagine the buzz it would create. Isn't that worth trying out now rather than later?
So I'm going to try to ask the coach. He's correcting me. I just can't stand this guy. So, coach, I'm lost. Can you help me find a way to talk to Marco? I need some guidance, please. Actually, not sure that this feature is going to work, but let's try. Oh, it worked, I think.
Peter, I understand that you're seeking guidance, but remember, in this role play, I'm simulating Marco, the employee. As your meta coach, I can't step in and guide you during the role play itself. The purpose of this training is to put you in the driver's seat and allow you to navigate these challenging managerial situations using your own skills and the principles of Vapiano's culture.
So
Think about aligning Marco's enthusiasm with Vapiano's values and operational model. Consider how you can acknowledge his innovative spirit while also explaining the importance of strategic planning and brand alignment. How might you steer this conversation to find a middle ground where Marco feels heard and his ideas are considered within a more appropriate time frame or context? Let's continue with the role play. How would you respond to Marco's push to implement his ideas immediately?
So you get the picture. In this case, the client wanted the coach to be, I would say the support is a little bit limited. They don't want the trainer to solve the problems for the trainee. However, it gives you like a general guidance, right? And you can have multiple characters, multiple trainers, basically anything you want to achieve in a very conversational mode can be reached with this app.
Are we generally using this with VR?
It can be used with VR. What we recommend at this stage is to use it with the device that is just the easiest for you to implement. So mobile phones, tablets, Chromebooks, whatever you have. We love VR. The problem with VR is that it's scarce. There's not many headsets. Hopefully in the future it's going to be easier, but we are already connecting this technology with VR. We are working with a company that's actually located here in Scottsdale, Axon, the company that invented the tasers. So with them, we are connecting this technology to simulate
distress people, and also we connected with taser training, so you can talk to them, and if you fail, you can tase them. So this is there's no tasing yet in other versions of this output.
Bring that in here.
Yeah, so that's all that I got for you today. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have.
It's incredible. I just don't have any questions. I just am impressed.
How did you connect with West-MEC again? Sorry.
Through the department, education.
Arizona Education Economic Commission
Oh.
came, and so I grabbed him real quick and said, I need you to come over and take a look at West-MEC and let's see what we can put together to
Yeah.
take us to the next level, so.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, my mind just running with all these different ideas and what you can do, and
It's awesome.
yeah, it's just limitless. Yeah, it's crazy. And it's still at its beginning stages, you said, right? Like in the future, you'll have audio visual and what else?
Face recognition.
Face recognition.
Face recognition, voice recognition, gesture recognition, anything.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, to do something like this, we would have to write the script,
Yeah.
hire a voice actor, think about everything that could be said. I mean, we would have a fracture of this and would take us years to make it. Now, just generate them quickly.
Yeah.
Plus, we built the platform that allows to do that, but
And is this I don't understand AI quite that much, but is it a program and then you build databases of information and you feed it into that? Is
It's basically, there's several components to the system. There's an app that has all the avatars. There's the central system that takes the data. It takes the information from various forms of data, various documents, stores them in a special vertical database that is used for AI. Then there's a large language model in the middle that compiles all the data and generates the speech. There's another form of AI that generates the speech, because all the speech that you heard is generated in real time, hence the delay, and that gets shorter and shorter. Then there's another AI that analyzes what you said, and it already understands 40 different languages. We even had a test with East Texas accent, which I did not understand, and this understood it perfectly.
Yeah.
So there's several components of AI that we put together. And then there's a platform for teachers and students where you can have access, see what they did, see the reports. And we want to grow it and basically build it as a bespoke solution for you. So you have all the features that you might need. We don't even know what can come to your mind, but it's just the beginning. However, what is important is that every single piece of AI that is in this system is being upgraded every few weeks. So this technology is getting better even without our intervention and any additional costs on your side.
And to think I remember crank phones on the wall.
Another party.
Party line.
Okay, thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Ms. Farmer. Appreciate you coming tonight.
It's amazing.
All right, Mr. Williams, legislative update.
A different kind of intelligence. Chairman Crockett, members of the board, Superintendent Spurgeon, as always, thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on efforts related to business development and some of the legislative happenings at the Capitol. On the business development front, Dr. Spurgeon mentioned the Nashville Chamber that's bringing 100 CEOs from the Nashville and surrounding area to Phoenix later this month to learn from our ecosystem and the different elements within the workforce and education ecosystem. This was going to happen absent West-MEC, and through our partnership with our FRIA, we have been engaged with Alignment Nashville and the Nashville Academies. And the more and more we were in those conversations, and Dr. Spurgeon's leadership, my involvement on committees, Jared's involvement, Julie Rodriguez has been a part of these. Ford Next Generation Learning and Alignment Nashville, I think, realized that they may have more to learn from us than we do from their model. And they began asking more and more questions and how does this work? How do you work with the member districts? How do you engage these employers? How do you find and verify and validate all the credentials? How do you articulate dual enrollment with the post-secondary system? So it's really proved fruitful, really on both ends. And they have modified their agenda later this month to include Dr. Spurgeon's voice and vision for career and technical education and the work that we're doing at West-MEC. So we're really happy about that and look forward to the 25th where they'll be in the Phoenix area. Want to talk a little bit about West-MEC Connections. Again, that's our transportation solution for students that's currently being funded by a 2-year grant. We are finishing first year of that 2-year grant cycle. It has proven to be really all the difference for those 200 or so students that we've been able to serve this year through one of 4 connection methods. Retention data at December when it was last captured was 100%. You'll remember that we shared that 100% of those students accessing West-MEC Central programs by one of these connections was 100%. Looking into next year, through this year, you may remember I talked about Formative as this transportation partner and company that's really sitting in this space, trying to figure out regional transportation solutions for districts because the landscape of education has changed. It's not everybody going to their neighborhood school. We've got a lot of different scenarios, families making their own choices for a variety of reasons, but transportation has not evolved with that landscape. So they sit in this space. They've worked with Boston Public Schools. They've worked with a lot of other large regions. And we are going to bring back to the board a proposal that would have them come on as our transportation partner. They would serve we would give them a set of business rules that says, here's how you make decisions for West-MEC Central Program students, whether they get on a bus provided by their member district, whether they get a bus card for Valley Metro, whether they get on micro transit like the We Ride in the Surprise and Goodyear and El Mirage region. We're going to be able to add 2 additional options for students. One is family reimbursement for transportation. We learned this year that that is actually far more economical than some of the individual rideshare options that are out there when you're paying a third party to move a student from point A to point B. We learned that we could have just paid and reimbursed the family's direct expense for half that, sometimes less than half that cost. So it would have been cumbersome for West-MEC to do that directly. We would have had to set up each family as a vendor. We would have had to track all that mileage and backup documentation. But through Formative as a third-party transportation partner, they can manage all of that and would just then invoice us a total for those reimbursements. Again, we'd set up business rules. At what rate are they reimbursed? Is that attached to their attendance? How is that attached to their attendance? So there's a lot of good best practices that they've gathered from other systems. We're looking forward to that approach. I think will take us to that next level of efficiency and make it a more sustainable model, but it will also give our students access to a live call center if they have any issue through any of those touch points, either figuring out what their transportation solution is or the day of, if something happens, they've got a direct number that they can contact a call center. That way we don't have to set up our own West-MEC transportation department. This all gets to happen and run through a transportation partner that has proven effective for other systems.
So who are you reimbursing? That's what it sounds like I'm reimbursing the family.
Right now, nobody. Going into next year, it would be an option to reimburse the family for that transportation cost. Again, we can set up those business rules if it's based on financial need. In some cases, it's not financial need, it's logistics. That student who wants to come to West-MEC hasn't turned 16 or got their driver's license yet when they start the program their junior year. But maybe come January, they'll have that in place and they won't need that support anymore. So that's, the business rules haven't been all confirmed, but that's the model that's currently in place for other systems.
How does that get around the gift of public funds? Because I'm taking public funds and I'm gonna pay a family to get your students to a class that
Good question.
you've signed up for. And so I'm paying you to do your job. And every parent's gonna wanna say, I wanna get paid for that job. And how do we not open the floodgates that now everybody wants? Because if I hear that Barbara's getting paid to drive her kid to school, every other kid in the class is gonna ask, I wanna get paid to drive my kid to school.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be the scenario. It wouldn't be necessarily, unless there was a financial need demonstrated, they wouldn't necessarily be reimbursed for driving their student to school. It would be reimbursed for using Uber Teen or for using a local rideshare option that would be mileage based. So we wouldn't, again, we could come up with a financial need based model. But in terms of the gift of public funds, it would be the same rules apply to us giving a 30-day bus pass to a student. I mean, that's a cost, that's money. We can work with legal and get an opinion on that, but I'm confident it would.
I just would rather ask that question now than have the Attorney General come back and ask this later.
So it would be formative transportation actually handles all that business, and it wouldn't be West-MEC, but we would
Correct.
do business with them.
We would still be paying the.
They would send us a bill, we pay the bill,
Yeah.
they're operating how they operate.
So more to come on that. Just wanted to provide a preview of some of the discussions that have happened, some of the lessons we've learned this year. Again, it's been well received for about 200 students. It's meant the difference of being able to come to West-MEC or not. Obviously, that provides them a tremendous opportunity, but from a business perspective, that's 200 students that we're getting enrollment for and that are able to access our program that wouldn't have otherwise been in those seats.
Have you visited the cost?
Say it again.
Have you visited the cost of using formative transportation?
So their model is they charge $100,000 administrative fee to provide access to their call center, to provide the support, to find the efficiencies. And then you establish a target budget based off of the current year data. So this year we spent X amount to transport 200 students. So they'll extrapolate that out to what we estimate to be 300 students next year. So this is not a real number, but let's say that cost is $1 million. So it's $1 million to move 300 students to and from their West-MEC Central campus. They would aim to beat that target and then share in any savings. So if they were able to do that for 800,000, West-MEC would recoup 100,000 of that million, and they would get an additional 100,000 for that efficiency that they found in the system. So it incentivizes them. They get an administrative cost that's far less than what it would cost us to staff that support internally. And it provides that third party feature that allows reimbursement. They'll work directly with Valley Metro to get those bus cards. They would work directly with any rideshare options and providers. We wouldn't have to set up all those accounts ourselves.
So would it just be it's a reimbursement for them reimbursing somebody else? It's not. So my thought process is there a risk? What risk are we assuming by having these companies do this rather than us do it ourselves? Is there a special insurance we have to have? What additional costs? Are they an Arizona company? They're registered in Arizona in case there's a lawsuit?
They do have a presence in Arizona and they've worked with other entities, and at risk of kind of going well into an agenda item that's not on the agenda, I can make sure that I bring back, these are great questions. And then when we bring this back into an agenda item, I'll happy to go into more detail with liability, with gift of public funds, with those questions that are surfacing. I should have known that this would figure some of these good questions, but.
Future agenda items
Yes,
for another time.
yes.
Keep going,
Indeed.
sir.
Can I ask one more?
In the interest of time, we have a
restrictions? Are there any legislative restrictions for West-MEC to be paying out money for transportation?
No, it would be, there's no policy, there's no legislation that would prohibit us from that. That's really what's prompted this, because the legislation is absent funding for C-10 transportation. I'm gonna skip the next couple and just go right into legislative affairs. We are day 87 of the legislative session. And 98, I think it's been modified today, but 98 of those have gone to the governor's desk. She signed 80 of them, vetoing 18. But it's early And last week, actually this week with appropriations marks the end of committee work. So we know the bills that stand, and this week has realized quite a few bills being voted on the floor, and a record number of resolutions being introduced this year as a way to potentially circumvent the veto pen of the governor. Again, if it's a resolution and it requires a simple majority vote, then that would go directly to the voters. But I'm hearing that they'll, both leadership in the Senate and the House, may be backing off on some of those resolutions. One, they're going to focus on those that will have support post-session leading up to the November ballot. And two, if all these resolutions truly went to the voters, we'd be looking at a 3 or 4 page ballot. And voter fatigue is a thing. And anything past that first, certainly the second page may just be skipped. So those are a couple of updates. Prop 123 that we talked about last month. Not a lot of movement on this. There is agreement amongst all parties that there should be some alignment around what actually goes to the voters. There needs to be a consistent message behind that if it stands any chance of getting passed at the ballot. If it's fractured and you've got different camps supporting different ideas, that could confuse voters, that could just cause them to say no to all of it and result in Prop 123 not being extended. There is a pretty good chance, because the governor had her proposal, House Senate leadership had theirs, there's a couple resolutions out of the House. Pretty likely that that will kind of get wrapped up in some of those budget negotiations as well. And there'll have to be some middle ground that is found to move that forward. Senate Bill 1456 was the CTED 4th year funding. This did not get heard, advanced out of the Senate, did not get heard in the House Education Committee, essentially killing that bill. We are working with Representative Livingston to potentially bring this language through the budget process, because we do think it's important, especially for our rural CTEDs, that we change the regional in-demand list for programs. Again, this is 9th grade and 13th grade. Regional in-demand list, we'd like to make it a statewide list. We believe that's reflective of the workforce needs in Arizona. That you, if you're a rural CTED, that you'd be able to train and be funded for programs that would result in employment for that student outside of that particular region of the state. Senate Bill 1654, Title 15 bill. It was the it resulted in a strike everything bill. So that nice little packet I gave you that had all the items in that Title 15 bill essentially got gutted and resulted in approval of CTED foster housing, and outlined the uses of litigation recovery fund to include M&O and unrestricted capital after all items had been exhausted. So I don't even think those two were in the original plan. So somehow that really took a turn, and I'm hopeful that through some continued conversations, maybe there's additional amendments that can happen to clean up that Title 15 and make it less burdensome for districts.
CJ, really quick, that CTE housing, that's what EVET's doing,
That's
right?
EVET, yeah.
Lastly, we expect agendas to slow down after today. I do think they're actually reconvening tomorrow, I saw, but beyond this week, there's talk that they'll be meeting just once weekly. And the finance advisory is, I believe, April 11th. They'll come out with those new revenue projections that, again, will be very important to the budget negotiations. I've heard even that some will want to wait till the May projections after the tax deadline to be able to really get into those budget negotiations. So it could result in, especially leading up to an election year, a longer than expected session. I want to thank our campuses, and Louisa was instrumental in this as well. West-MEC, really, I think for the first time in our history, signed up to be
to serve our communities as a polling place. So we were March 19th, we served as polling place for the presidential preference election. We will do the same July 30th for the statewide primary and November 5th for the statewide general election. With that, I stand for any questions if the chairman would allow for that.
I'm open to any questions that keeps us within the agenda. Anything?
I voted Central Campus, it's fantastic. You're easy to get it out. It's good.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Brings us to the consent agenda. Ms. Wiley, you had indicated you wanted to have a couple of items pulled. Is that?
Yes, 1. 2. Just have some questions out.
Okay. I'm going to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 1 and 2. Okay, I guess I made the motion and Ms. Bosom has seconded it. And it looks like it just locked me out again.
I also like to make another motion to include.
We have one on the floor. So we have the agenda, the consent agenda minus items 1 and 2.
Chairman.
Yes.
If I could have Mr. Guy come up for just a second. Jared, would you come in for a second? Just want to say congratulations, so come up here. So Mr. Guy has been with the district for a number of years. He'll be replacing Mr. Welch in the assistant superintendent's position. He's worked along Stephen for a number of years. And we think he's going to be a tremendous addition for us as we continue to move West-MEC forward. So I want to say congratulations, and if you had anything you want to say to the board.
Thank you, Dr. Spurgeon. Appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity. Board, thank you for the opportunity to serve West-MEC, and I'm excited to serve in a new capacity and excited to take that next step, continue the great work that we're doing, and continue to get better every single day and every single year. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, moving, we want to now come back and discuss 1 and 2.
Can't pull up 1 on here to show. How do I get this?
So the question I had for this was years ago when we approved this, Mr. Donovan said the salary and administrative fee would not exceed the person's current salary. And I see an 18 and 28% fee. And so I'm assuming that the salary gets reduced the amount of the fee of 28% in Schedule A. Come on up.
Thank you, President Strand. I just wanted, because you mentioned 28%. So the 28% is for the subsource rate. So we currently don't use certified or classified substitutes. We currently are using them for the retiree hire program. And so that percentage is the 18. Services.
So then the salaries are reduced the 18% to cover.
It reduces 4%.
So then why is it not the full 18%?
Well, the other savings that we have, Chairman Straka, we save on payroll taxes. We also don't have to provide coverage, insurance coverage for the employees. So depending on which tier they want, that could be pretty significant. We also don't pay into the Arizona State Retirement System.
Ms. Wiley, what were your questions?
Okay, on 4.1. 1.
In the agreement.
In the agreement. On first one that we pulled.
Are you talking about the intergovernmental agreement on elections or the, because I think the first one, maybe I jumped to the wrong one.
Yeah.
I did. Okay, so we're back. Sorry. Go back to yours.
And for, it's talking about publications and do we ever do pros and cons on this?
Anybody can submit a pro or con.
Well, I know anybody can submit,
And
I'm just wondering.
in our last bond election, I submitted a pro. You cannot, but a West-MEC employee cannot with their title, or they violate the Hatch Act. A West-MEC employee, I believe, can submit it just as Mr. CJ Williams, but not as any role with West-MEC. And anybody can submit it. The drawback is if 500 people submit it, we have to pay for the printing and mailing of that pamphlet. But I think we had 10 last time. It was, oh, and then you have to pay for the translation to another language.
Okay, so go to 6.1 and explain that to me, please. Mhm. It's election year 2024, not to exceed 750 per question, and 25, 1,026.
So the actual question that goes on the ballot, not all the costs related to it, but the administrative cost of putting, my understanding is,
So it increases that much every year, just because of inflation?
because that's what we negotiated. So if we have a contested election, that is one question. So as an example, Deer Valley might have a bond and an override. That's 2 questions. So that would be $750 per question just for it to appear on the ballot. Then they prorate the cost of everything of printing the cost of the ballots. So last year in a special off election year, the only thing was a bond override. Then you have to pay for the full cost of printing the ballots plus the $750 for each ballot question.
Elections are very expensive.
When we had 2 people, was it Mr. Garcia ran as a write-in? Our election cost was something like $400,000 just to count those write-in votes. And that, no publicity pamphlet, so that was a cheap election.
It's not cheap.
I can't remember what our bond election was last time. Does anyone know?
It was close to $1 million.
And that's because it was a shared cost, because it was a general election. Any other questions, Ms. Wiley? I would entertain a motion to approve or decline if.
I'll make the motion to approve. I'll second.
Moved by Ms. Bosom, second by Mr. Garcia. All right, moving on to the net.
We still have received verbs.
That doesn't come up on the screen.
Okay, so can you give me a verbal yes or no? Yes.
Hit that little circle button and refresh on the upper left-hand corner above West-MEC.
All right, I did it.
All right. ESI agreement.
Yeah, I did it. Okay, and that one, I just would like somebody just to explain it to me.
Yes, she just wants explanation.
Mrs. Wiley, the ESI or the ESI company and companies like Smart Schools came into existence to allow employees to retire and be able to also draw their pension. So the advantage to the district is that you're able to retain an experienced employee. And the advantage to the employee is that they are able to obviously draw both their pension and a paycheck from ESI. So the way we also save money, as I just mentioned before, is that the employee salary is cut by 10%. We also save on the insurance costs, so we no longer have to pay for the employee's insurance. We also save about 20% in payroll taxes and the contribution to ASRS. So there are advantages to both the employer and to the employee.
Okay.
I do
Heard
have,
this before.
I have a question on the bottom of page 4. It says that the client, which is us, will be responsible for providing paid leave equal to or greater than the amount required under the FWHFA. The annual allotment of the rehire workers paid sick leave will not be approved, but will be granted by client in full via lump sum dispersal at the start of the rehire workers contracted employment period. Wouldn't this be ESI's responsibility to pay? Why are we paying it?
So my understanding of that particular bullet, Mrs. Buson, is that we also have to give the employee, as part of the agreement, any benefits that they would have had as a full-time employee or a full employee with the district. So they get their leave accrual, whatever they're eligible for, they get sick leave, they get vacation leave, they get holiday pay. So, but
We're not
there's,
saving all those savings that you just mentioned, because that just added us right back up. And then I think that violates the Biden rule that they just implemented.
well, we would have paid it anyway if they were fully up.
We would have paid it, but if they get vacation, it's, say, their salary is 50,000, vacation is still out of that 50,000. What I'm hearing you say is, we have to pay the 50,000 plus whatever the vacation pay is and the sick time at the front end. And if they don't use sick time, the company keeps it.
So my understanding of what happens is that there's no rule here in West-MEC that I am aware of that the employee can't cash out their vacation or sick leave once they leave. But if you think about vacation and sick leave, it's basically a contracted day. So it's not extra pay. It's basically their regular compensation that they would get for that day. So it's not charging us more. It would be just like if they were here working. It's just that they're not physically in their office.
But they're working for another company now, not for West-MEC. So that's why I just don't understand why we're liable for that.
Well, that is part of the agreement that we made with the employee, and that's also what makes it attractive to the employee to go through the process, is because not only are they getting their financial compensation of both their pension and a paycheck, but they also get to still enjoy the same leave that employees that are currently employed in the district enjoy as well.
So how many employees do we have that fall into that category?
We actually didn't have that many Smart Schools employees. I am only aware of 2 this year.
So I've asked this question and I still haven't seen the answer. President Biden enacted a new rule. It took effect March 11th. And from what you're saying, if the employer provides benefits, then they're really an employee. And this sounds like they are really an employee. We're paying for their benefits. How does this not violate that rule?
I did ask for a legal opinion on that, Mr. Straka, and what I was told is that, because you're talking about the independent contractor rule, and the response that I got back from legal is that it wasn't the same. But that they are going to be doing a presentation on that in the near future, just to address that very issue.
And why isn't it the same?
Because the independent contractor the ESI employees, for all intent and purposes, if you look at the agreement, it is very specific. It says you are not an agent of the district. You are strictly an employee of ESI. So that is spelled out very, very clearly. They are not our employee.
So Ms. Mays, do we pay the ESI directly or do we pay the employee directly? It's still,
They invoice us the cost for the employee's salary, and so we pay them.
so we're paying ESI.
Yes.
So we pay. ESI.
The difference is the way he enacted the rule was if the employee doesn't have multiple workplaces, which they wouldn't, they don't have control of their creativity, in which they wouldn't because we're directing them what to do. And there is, I'm trying to think, but it's basically, they don't control their own financial destiny, which they wouldn't. They are considered an employee for the district. So I'm really confused on how this doesn't apply.
And as I said before, I did reach out to legal and her response was because in the agreement that we entered into with them, that she felt that it is very clearly spelled out for all intent and purposes, they're not armed.
But that's what this rule was entire, they wanted to sweep all those independent contractors that are only working for one business into employment. Because then we create new jobs right before the election.
I don't think we're gonna change anything.
Yeah.
In this conversation, so.
So I
But I have a question. There also is an alternative contribution that the employee can make for their retirement. And that is also going to be West-MEC's responsibility, not ESI's.
So the alternative
renegotiate?
the alternative contribution rate is set by the Arizona State Retirement System. And basically what it is was to bring some stability to the fund because we have a larger number of employees that are leaving the system but not contributing. So one of the ways that they decided to help equalize that was to charge districts or cities or whatever, what's called the alternative contribution rate, so that the employer is still obligated to contribute to keep the fund healthy. But you can't pass that cost on to the employee. That has to be paid by the employer.
But we're not their employer.
Well, we have to, under ASRS rules, we have to pay it. So that doesn't have anything to do with ESI. That has to do with the Arizona State Retirement System.
Okay.
So what you're saying is by law, we can't change any of these.
We can't change the ASR ruling or the ACR contribution because that is set by ASRS. Right now, it's 10%. And as far as the independent contractor issue, again, I have to stand on what I was told by the legal counsel that those were two different things, the Biden rule and the independent contractor situation.
any other questions? All right, is there a motion?
So moved. Item 2, consent agenda.
Is there a second?
We already approved also the first one? Okay, that's right. Okay.
I didn't hear a second.
Seconded.
Mr. Marino, Wiley. Yeah. I would say in parting, I think we shouldn't prepay anything because a 1/4 point discount when we're getting 4% from the county is a bad deal for the district. I kind of would have expected ESI to give us something a little better. Fails. I'm gonna move on because there is no other choice. We have 1 abstention and 2 no's, so we will not have ESI employees next year. I don't know what else to say.
The abstain counts as a no vote.
You have to have 4 yeses for it to pass.
Just for clarification purposes, if we do have a current employee that is on ESI this year and may have planned to come back and finish, the rest of their eligibility, or that year that they have to sit out, or partial year or whatever, next year, effective 2024-25, does that mean that that employee is no
The
longer?
board has not approved the extension of the ESI contract at this point.
So they would have to, I just wanted.
They would have to come back.
That also covered employees that were currently on ESI. Thank you.
I mean, All right, that covers the consent agenda. Let's move on to action items. Discussion of possible item of district policy services. This is a continued item. Mr. Ramirez, I would look to you on what your thoughts were. This was continued based on your recommendation.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to review the presentation from the trust and also their website and do some comparison. And so comfortable now taking a vote on this one.
What happened to what?
F3, we didn't do that.
F3.
Personnel actions.
Oh, yeah, no, everything else was the consent agenda. We just pulled 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So everything else we did in the consent agenda, right? Okay. So are you making a motion to make the trust the primary and still join the secondary for the training for all the board members?
My motion would be actually just to stick with the trust. That seems like a more simple solution. I looked at feel comfortable with the work that they have, the website. The statements that the board at the end is in control. They're in the driver's seat in terms of the policy language that we want to see in the policy. I like that they hyperlinked and referenced all the statutes. I did a sample, I just kind of went through some of the different districts, checked some of their policies, and like it's McClellan, I think is that McClellan. So I mentioned they do stick to the legislative intent. I think that was one of our concerns. If the statute says something must be done or shall be done, if it's listed as a requirement, then that's reflected in the policy, and I saw that on several of the policies that I saw on their website.
Okay. So your motion is to move forward with the trust?
Yes.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second that. I also went and reviewed every policy for all those 14 school districts. And for now, they seem to be okay. When I had first looked at NASBA's policies, I rewrote every single policy in January, and I didn't share it because we went ahead and went to explore other opportunities. But in the future, because I will definitely keep an eye on it. If I think it's not a good thing. I think, we should go ahead and look at Arizona Coalition of School Board Members.
I think their training was outstanding,
Yeah.
and I would be happy if board members participated in the training for $25 a year. It can't get any, gosh, the ASBA School Board Conference was $1,000 for Mr. Williams for what it was. And so
Mr. Schreiber, there was a secondary part of the motion when you were talking to Mr. Ramirez to keep the training with. Yeah, most was just to stay with the trust without the training part.
So what your motion was just to go with the trust?
Yeah. We can still do the training outside of that.
Yeah.
Still do that.
Yeah, we can still keep that vote.
Yeah, so this second part of the motion is to keep the training with the coalition. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so moved by Mr. Ramirez, seconded by Ms. Bosom.
Any explanation in the motion and to be increased?
Because we're going to have to.
So we would need to transition July 1st, I believe, which is when our current contract expires. Am I correct? I see heads nodding. So the motion is to transition to trust policy and take advantage of the Alliance of School Boards training and discontinue the ASBA policy services. I'm also excited with this one because the trust also specifically works on the CTED, which I don't think ASBA was able to do that for one of 15 districts, you know, out of 400 people. All right. Any other discussion?
And that was motioned by Mond.
Yes.
And second by Ms. Bosom.
See how one votes. What vote.
All right, moving on. Thank you. Recommendation that the CMAR for the Agua Fria campus. Mr. You're not Mr. Heath.
So, no, I'm not. Mr. Heath is unavailable today. He's attending an ASBO conference representing West-MEC well and learning a lot of valuable information. So I'll be joining you today. Thank you for having me. Today, the administration recommends the CM at risk RFQ to GCON for the Agua Fria project. There were 4 companies that responded. It was a routine procurement evaluation. GCON was the clear winner. You've been through this 3 other times recently. I think you're old pros at this. You know what happens next. We bring the design phase services to you. And then what will happen in the future are a series of GMPs with construction. But I'm happy to answer any questions, but it is the recommendation to award the CM at risk for Agua Fria to GCON.
All right, is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Migliorino, and it is to approve it as presented. Is there a second? No. Mr. Garcia beat it. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Ms. Brown? Oh, we have to vote, sir.
Then I'll wait.
You're a troublemaker.
Yeah. 10 years of practice.
I know. Thank you. All right. Moving on to employee health benefits plan. Ms. Mays, come on up. Welcome back.
Right, there you go. Thank you. Good evening again, Chairman Stracker, members of the governing board, Superintendent Spurgeon. Last month, we reviewed the results of the Employee Benefits Committee and their recommendation. This evening, we will present the financial information from the plans proposals that were reviewed. And we would also like to make a recommendation for benefits for employees for next year. The first screen that you see is a synopsis of the premiums that West-MEC has paid, or premium increases, excuse me, that were paid by West-MEC over the past few years. On the right, we did our own research, and we pulled information from a member district to see what their increases were in comparison to ours. I would like to make a correction, however, from information that I received from Kairos. Their overall benefit increases on for Kairos for 22-23 was actually 5%. For 23-24 was 7%. And their average increase this year amongst their members is actually 6.8%. So their overall increases were slightly lower than what you see on the screen. The ASBE premium increase for the 24-25 school year, if we are going to go with ASBE next year, is $254,832. Also to keep in mind with the screen that is before you is that these increases are dependent on several different factors. Claims such as claims experience, the cost of care, and administrative costs, such as the reserves in the plan, if there's additional overhead from the plan providers. So these increases can fluctuate from year to year. I'd also like to note that in our conversation with Kairos, they were willing to give us a rate guarantee for 2 years if we join the plan. On this next screen, these are the current West-MEC employees that are enrolled in medical insurance and those that are participating in any of our dependent plans. I thought it would be helpful for the governing board to see the movement of employees between plans. So as you can see, a number of employees left the employee-only tier and are enjoying the great benefit of having dependent coverage for both their spouses, children, and family members. A total of 55 employees are now on our dependent coverage, whether it's employee plus spouse, employee plus children, or employee plus family. So that is the increase from last year to this year. There's a total of 67 employees that are on our dependent plans. And that's out of a total of 178 benefit eligible employees. I do not have a screen for a comparison between Kairos and our co-pay plan because the Kairos proposal did not include an apples to apples co-pay plan to ours. I do have those numbers, however, if the governing board would like that information in terms of the difference in cost. But the plans that you see before you are for the value plan, and they're also for the HDHP plan. So the difference between the two plans is listed in red, and it basically captures the lower cost of the Kairos plan from the ASBE plan. So for the Kairos, for the 24-25 school year for the value plan, Kairos has proposed a lesser amount of over $400,000. For the projected monthly HDHP plan, the difference in costs from the Kairos plan and the ASBE plan is approximately $275,000. I would like to pause here and mention that these rates do look very attractive in terms of the financial impact for the district. However, the co-pay plan was the top choice from our employees when we went through the committee. And that's because of the lower out-of-pocket cost on the co-pay plan. On this next slide, we thought it would be helpful to give an example of 3 different situations that employees may face medically. on the X. So it's basically the same scenario on both plans. And as you could see, there is a difference in cost. For the purposes of this example, on the ASBE plan, that is the $0 copay plan. And on the Kairos plan, that is a $500 deductible plan. So in the first scenario, that's if an employee is having a baby. The second example is if the employee was managing a chronic illness. And then the third example is if, for example, they broke their ankle. So at the bottom, that shows the increase or the potential increase out of pocket to the employee. However, I do want to, as a somewhat of a disclaimer, mention that on the top row, those are tier 1 costs. So right now we have a tier 1 and a tier 2 program. So these are tier 1 where the employee would have to stay within the Banner network. I do want to mention that if they go outside the Banner network, then they would incur a higher out-of-pocket expense. But still, as you can see, this is one of the concerns of our employees in terms of not being able to have that copay plan, because as mentioned here, their out-of-pocket expenses could be significant.
So in essence, the cost saving is literally being shouldered by our employees, so we're just passing the costs from one entity to the other, is what you're trying to say.
The next screen is a listing of all of the renewal rates, the current rates that we pay for insurance through the ASBE network, as well as the recommended increase that they are suggesting for next year. So if we stay with ASBE, we would incur that 8.7% increase, and that amount would be that $254,832 amount that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. The next screen, I wanted to make sure that I called this screen to the governing board's attention, because the orange bars represent our contributions. So that is the money that West-MEC has actually paid into the ASBE pool. The blue or the teal colored bars that you see are the usage or the medical claims, medical and pharmacy claims that we have incurred between July and December. So as you can see, our contributions far exceed our claims that we are currently paying. So one of the questions that we will be looking at for next year is we really strongly need to look at possibly going to a self-funded plan. Only because obviously we're paying a lot of money for our insurance, and it would be more financially beneficial to West-MEC if we were able to keep those money in our reserves versus just paying it into the ASBE plan.
Real quick. That's one of the things that this shows you very clearly, and we thought about doing it this year, but when you're without a CFO and you're down a person in business, it probably wasn't the year for us to do that. But I think after talking to Mr. Hicks and Marcy, our new CFO, this is probably the direction we should go. Is to look at being self-funded. In the long run, it's going to be the best cost savings for us as a district.
And is self-funded just ASBE, or is it Kairos, or is it?
We get to select it.
We would be able to select the manager of our.
We get to set our own plans.
It would be my recommendation, Frank, that next year we become self-funded entity and go out for bids or quotes based on that.
Based on that.
I appreciate that. But what I think I heard from Dr. Spurgeon is next year he would like to do a bond. And if we're gonna go self-insured, that would have to happen this year, or there's no way we could do a bond because the CFO and HR are gonna be heavily involved in doing a bond, and they can't do both. So if we push this to next year, we're saying no to a bond in
But my
2022.
problem is, Frank, and I've brought this up a couple of times at the end, you know, as a school board, we should be looking at policies, procedures, planning for the future, including sites and bonds and buildings. And I believe we should actually be going out for a bond this year. To adequately plan with the growth, and we've had the people in here showing us. We need to be considering that. And if we have to do them both at the same time, sometimes things happen.
I don't think we have the right band. I think the bandwidth isn't there. For doing both.
Well, I'd like to hear from Dr. Spurgeon. Do we have the bandwidth for it?
I think the way things have been run in the past, I think, a lot of that, the bond issue, I've probably run 9 or 10 of them. A lot of it's done, on the outside through, the committees, that do a lot of that work. I mean, it'll be extra work. There's no question about that. But the bottom line is that when you set your mind to a task, you make sure you have the right people to be able to get it done. Will be more work, absolutely. Can we get it done? I think so, but there'll be a lot of work involved.
The real question is, has our new CFO had experience in doing bonds? Do we ask her?
And speaking from, of course, my heart is with the employees. I would ask the board to please also consider that a drastic change in plans. It would be nice if we could give our employees a head start, or at least a heads up, that if our plans do change, they can start making the decisions on how it's gonna financially impact their family, and obviously on their health, because if they have doctors that are, not in the network, or if they have to make those other types of decisions. Now, the beauty of a self-funded plan is that you can have your own plan design. So if we wanted to have a co-pay plan like we have now, we certainly could do that. But probably the biggest change would be depending on which plan we go into. They may be on a different network. And so, or they may have a different formulary when it comes to prescriptions. So those are the things that might directly impact our.
Or the insurance company can develop a plan that would be good for our employees. You're right on. And Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes, and so to answer the board's question, I have ran mini bond campaigns, and I also have worked with self-insured experiences. These are both definitely doable. I would have no problems making sure that both of them were successfully done.
Thank you.
And Ms. Mays is so correct that we need to talk about it in advance, just like I'm saying now.
We've talked about this every year. It's next year. This is the 5th year at least that we've said, we're gonna do this next year. So, and last year we all said, next year is the year. Well, that's this year. I mean, we can't keep kicking the can down the road. We're creating a problem. So I would say we need to make the jump and do it this year.
I think Frank's right, every year we look at the same thing. Excuse me. And we need to bite the bullet and go ahead and do it. We've been looking at this for how many years?
Several years.
So why haven't we looked into it further to make it happen?
So we did actually have a conversation with a provider. We talked to Valley Schools, but they wanted to make sure that we were on board and the board was on board with moving to a self-insured product before they gave us rates and so forth. My only caution in making the jump at this particular meeting without the data. As I said before, we can plan our own, have our own plan design, but we don't know what those rates are gonna look like. So that is risky, in my opinion, because if they come back to give us the same exact plans that we have now, but the premiums are a lot higher than what we are paying right now, is that really in the best interest of the district or of our employees?
So
I
could we do Kairos as a self-insured?
They do offer a self-insured option, and I have had a conversation with them about it. And what I've heard, and we actually do have the from Kairos, right here. And there's several ways that they would be willing to do that. they would probably suggest that we are fully insured with them for a year to see how our claims are running before we make the leap into self-insured. But they do offer a self-insured option under Kairos. You are correct.
Experience with self-insured.
Sure. Ms. Mays, I have a question. I know this is showing us year 2023 to 2024. Have we created the same bar graph for previous years? How far back have we gone? And do they all look pretty similar?
This is just for 23, 24, but
Mhm.
before that date. It's fine.
Okay. I'd like to see.
I'm sorry.
No, I just would like to see, or it'd be good for the board to see if the trend has been similar for the last 5 years.
And it has, from what I did see, or from just my analysis of the claims since I've got here from the last 5 years, we have been running good claims. We have always been under 100%. We're usually between 80 and 90%, which basically means for every dollar that we spend in healthcare, or for every dollar that we invest in healthcare, we only have 80 cents in claims, so.
No.
Do you have some experience in self-fund?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so I would just add one, it is April. We have open enrollment plans and you have a committee that went one direction, and I am sympathetic to the board and understanding the expectations that we should be self-funded. And I've been self-funded by myself. I've been self-funded with Valley Schools, and I know Kairos has a self-funded plan. Right now, you're not set up to switch over to self-funded, and I'm sympathetic but the timing of it and being April right now, knowing that you have open enrollment, knowing that you have to get people enrolled and pay and get those plans set up. Right now, I would not recommend switching.
So if we adopt something now and we say self-funded.
Next year.
From this day forward.
Yeah.
So now it's just,
For it next year, don't want to hear anything else.
We
So-
would only present self-funded options.
Yeah.
next year.
so really the choices are ASBE or Kairos as a non-self-funded.
I want to answer your question, why every year we put it. The reason, a good reason is because we care about our employees, and to give them time to adjust that we're gonna have something different next year makes absolutely perfect sense.
We said that last year too. And you heard it.
Question. I'm telling you, the answer is because I care about our employees.
I have a question about the copay plan. You have a primary care physician, and then do they have to get a referral, or can they go to a specialist
They can go to a specialist.
without any wait for a referral? And what kind of wait do they have for those specialists?
It depends on the specialist. If it is, if they don't have the time in their schedule, they won't be able to make the appointment that they need, but that is pretty much up to the employee. And they also can do additional research in some of the tools that ASBE has if they want to look at a different provider, because they'd like to get in there sooner, for instance.
Because one of the things I've seen is that the copay plan that we have, their payment to the specialists are lower, so there's a smaller group of pool, so you wait longer. And if we have somebody with cancer, depending on the type of cancer, a 4-week delay is anywhere from an 11 to 25% increase in mortality. So why it's convenient for the employees if they have if we have 10 employees with cancer, statistically, one is gonna die, by waiting in that plan. And so my concern, it's not just convenience, it's, are there adequate providers? And I think I had asked you that earlier, and what?
So they are a member, if you're talking about ASBE, they are a member of the Aetna Banner Network. They also have employees can also go into tier 2, which is a wider network. But it just means an additional cost to them. So they actually do have access to all the hospitals that are in Maricopa County area.
So what you're saying is like the tier 1 is a limited
It's a
number.
limited network.
And then if they want to go to tier 2 and go full availability, there's an additional cost, so they've lost the benefit of the copay plan.
No, they can still go on.
Well, but they have to pay more, so then it's essentially moved to something else.
You're correct.
For this.
What is it for this?
So I did the benefits presentation last week. And we did a survey of 113 employees that I actually. And according to the results, you know, the things that were important to them was keeping family coverage. But to answer your question, they did rate, you know, between a 4 and a 5 rating on a scale of 0 to 5. The American insurance is being good. They also said our benefits compared to other employees that they've worked with, comparable or outstanding. So from the benefits committee, however, which was representative of our employees, we had 17 individuals across different classifications. We had administrators, we had certified staff, we had HR staff, and classified staff. So hopefully they provided the voice of our employees, and their recommendation was to stay with the copay. Or to at least have a copay.
When you went to the family plan, one of the things we did is there's employees grandfathered in with the 2250. How many of those employees gave up the stipend to get? So how many did we have? How many gave up the stipend to get family coverage?
And that is a great question, and I got your email today. My staff is working on that as we speak. So I can get you those exact numbers either tomorrow or the next day. So that was, I did read in the governing board minutes that was a requirement. It was just, time I got the request, it wasn't time to turn it around. So I will make sure I get you that data.
One of the things I heard, which I'm kind of concerned about, was when some of the employees spoke last week. Because one of the things I think you sent in the email to me is a lot of our expenses are out of the family coverage, and we've only had family coverage for 6 months. So what I'm hearing is those numbers are going up because we have family coverage, which is counterintuitive to what I expected. And the individuals were complaining that, hey, please don't raise our rates because families are costing so much. Have we looked at, and I brought this up before, if we have individual employees, I'll give you $1,000 a month for all benefits. And if you have family coverage, we'll just give you a flat $1,500 a month. That covers family. And I think about the Jarrett guy and his wife both work for the district. It doesn't make sense for them both to have family coverage, but if we gave them $1,500 in benefit, Jarrett could cover a certain thing and his wife could cover something else. Well, if they decide to go on the HDHP, they could contribute $1,500 a month into their HSA and kind of get the benefit of both working here without losing that. So my thought is, instead of doing this 97%, 100% of family, why don't we make it more flexible for employees and offer individual employees like $1,000 of benefit? And if you have family, $1,500 a month of benefit. And if you want, you know, you don't want health insurance, and that makes the employees really free to choose whatever they want. You know, they want pet coverage, they want whatever our selection of benefits are.
Are you referring to like a stipend?
No, in place of just saying we're gonna cover health insurance, say you have $1,500 a month of benefits as a family to buy. Do you wanna buy health insurance? Well, if we have a lot of couples that work for the district, so the second one is kind of losing the family coverage. So if we say you have family coverage, then the spouse could get whatever.
You're saying in lieu of one of these, in
We
lieu
could
of
say-
signing up to one of these plans?
In lieu of signing up to a plan, that way, if you're eligible for Medicare, and I hear everybody who goes on Medicare says it's great. Well, we could pay your, we could pay their $471 a month Medicare copay to get all the coverage, and then they'd have $1,000 a month for other benefits. And so what I'm saying is, make it more flexible for the employees, because that way it gives them freedom to choose their health plan. Does that make sense?
Who's saying give them money so they can go out and shop? for a
No,
plan?
what I'm saying is, we have a menu of benefits,
Mhm.
health insurance, dental, vision. And they want to cover their family or they don't, you know, well, then they can pick and choose what they would like. And then that way it's completely flexible. Oh, I want more life insurance. I want pet insurance, I want legal plan. You could throw that all in there if, and whatever exceeds that limit, then it becomes out of their paycheck. But the first, like $1,500, I'm just picking a number, but like $1,500 for, that would cover, I think 1,502 is family coverage under Kairos. That would cover everything. That's less than what the district's paying now. So can we do something like that? What does that look like? And same thing, if they could join ASRS, which is cheaper. And I'm just trying to find a way for the district to create more flexibility in their benefits while still giving them the option for family coverage or individual coverage, and trying to help equalize. Because we heard the one employee last month saying, hey, I'm an individual and I feel like I'm being penalized.
And are you recommending this for next year or for now?
For this year.
Right now?
Could we do that in place of just saying we're gonna pay 97% and 100%?
You want to do that this year?
Mm-hmm. Because we're gonna do open enrollment
When do I have to decide on this
tonight.
question?
Yes.
Okay, I would want a presentation of what you're proposing before I consider that, and it sounds a little confusing.
Because financially, the other thing that we would have to be very strategic to calculate
Yes.
is, please understand that family coverage is a huge retention
Yes.
factor and recruiting factor for the district. So the more you lowball that amount, if you just say 1,500, for example, Mr. Straka, that would not cover the cost of family coverage per month.
Plus dental,
Plus dental, plus, so you're already taking away, potentially taking away benefits from employees when you do that. I have seen employers do that. But if our goal is to retain employees and recruit employees because of the great coverage that we have, then we've kind of.
And I was trying to pick a number, maybe it's not 1,500, maybe it's 1,700, but what I'm trying to get to is. I heard that employees want more flexibility, they want other benefits, especially the people that were single. I'm trying to find a way to balance both. And that's really what
Some of those other benefits are at the employee's cost, so
Right.
things like pet insurance, legal, yeah.
And that's where I look, it's like the individual employee. The complaint I think we heard last month is, hey, all the expenses are going up and I'm not the expense, it's the families. And I feel like I'm being penalized. So how can we equalize that?
Mr. Struck, the only thing that I would say, we beat this horse last year for so long, and when we got here, I would just hate to move back and go in a different direction from where we were, and then as Kathy said, we only have 1.5 openings. And this is a huge reason why our employees aren't leaving. So, if we could just get through this next year, and you direct me to go self-funded, we might be able to have some leadership conversations, but what I hope we don't do is go backwards from where we landed last year, because.
Oh, I'm not proposing going backwards. No, I had fought for a long time to get some kind of family coverage. So I'm not proposing to go backwards. I'm just trying to find a little bit of flexibility, because last month I heard the employees came up here and spoke, and I heard it's not fair. So maybe this is what I would say is the board wants to get away from ASBA. If we stay on ASBA, we're stuck with ASBA another year. Maybe we do adopt the same benefits at the Kairos plan and then look at self-funded under Kairos next year. I see Barbara shaking her head. I see Ms. Bosom.
Well, I have talked to EVIC. They have gone with the Kairos plan. I've looked at what their costs are and what EVIC is willing to do. And trust me, West-MEC is putting out a whole lot more money than we are. And they have more employees. And their total cost is like 2.2 million.
And they don't cover families.
Well, yes, no, they have the whole gamut. They have the core plan for Kairos. They also have the co-pay plan and the HDHP plan. So they have all of those things that they offer. And the only thing that EBIT gives is $880.75 a month to each employee. The rest is your cost. My suggestion would be to cover, you know, do something like this and cover that plan at 90% would be West-MEC's cost. That would chop everything down. I think, you know, it'd be very minimal for the employee, what their amount would be. But for West-MEC, if we provided 90% of Kairos for any plan, for just say the core plan, because it's more expensive, and the dental insurance plan, our cost would be $2,070,000. Yeah, it's about $2 million. Okay, where if we stick with ASB, it's $4.5 million and whatever. So we would be experiencing over $2.5 million. That's a lot of money that we can be putting towards, you know, our new campus, whatever, you know, improvements we want to make. I just feel like that's the way to go, and then just go self-funded next year.
Certainly is up to the governing board.
Yeah.
Whoever you
Ms. Hayes?
decide.
What is the earliest next year that we can get a presentation on this? On some of these questions, and then a proposal or a plan on moving toward a self-funded plan?
Well, it depends on what information you would like, Mr. Ramirez. If you would like an additional presentation from either Kairos or ASB, I'm sure that they would be willing to schedule something to give you more information on their plans. My only question to Ms. Wilson, when you were looking at, because I did not review EVIT's plan design, and you were saying that they do or they don't cover families.
They do, but they only have a flat fee
And they
that
can
they give
use
it to everybody. And I think that's kind of unfair. I would like to make sure, that's why I would like to see a percentage, you know, a certain percentage that West-MEC's gonna dole out so that we're treating everybody fairly. And especially people with families, because their costs are higher.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I guess the governing board will definitely have to decide in terms of, you know, our employee retention is huge, huge. We only have, I want to say, 1.5 openings right now.
26.
Right.
I'm still gonna make a recommendation that we stay with ASB, which is on the list, so at least you're gonna have to vote that way, because the bottom line is that I'm responsible for the overall accountability for this system, and making these kinds of decisions literally could crush our organization. And I know it's a money, it's a dollar and a cents thing, and I get that, and I'm trying to be as open and as honest as I can, but the bottom line is that when things start going south, you're gonna be looking at one person, that's me, so I don't wanna forget to make sure that I speak up and say, you know, this is a big decision, because we had a lot of employees that stayed with us, that came with us, that are gonna be here, and we're looking to expand in 4 separate projects with a brand new campus. If we start running employees away now, what do you think what's gonna be like in 2 years? We open new programs, can't find people to open up the program. Here's the big thing. For every employee that we can't find to open a program with 25 students in that classroom will cost us about $175,000 in revenue. So if we do one thing, there's gonna be a direct and opposite reaction on the other side. So if we lose 5 or 6 or 7 teachers, what money have you really saved? Not much. So I just wanna make sure that I put it out there. My recommendation is still that we stay with ASB for a year, and that the board direct me to go to self-funded for 25, 26, and we'll get it done.
I support that, and I would move that we take the recommendation of Ms. Mays and the committee and move forward, so you guys can go ahead and vote it down.
I second that, and yeah, we can explore all those, because to take all these considerations right now, we have different proposals from different board members. But I think that would be unfair, not just to this the administration and the instructors, and also the board members, to be put under pressure to consider all these options. I haven't seen any of those other numbers, those other plans, so I can't make a decision on something that I have not seen and I don't have data in front of me, so.
Service that we could have a presentation if it wasn't today.
I guess you'd have to call a special study session, or I could definitely reach out to both providers and have them just at the board's direction.
I would like to make a move to have a presentation.
Yeah, I think we have a motion on the
There's
floor,
already a
so we
motion.
can't have.
And it's second, I'd like to amend that motion, that put into it, because it says as presented, that next year we look at a self-funded and that we go. We have information, the board, I know it's tough to get it from the insurance companies, but we have information way prior to this. It's gotta be reasonable for both, but.
Direct me to do that, because that will.
Correct, the superintendent,
If we adopt ASBO now for 1 year.
Mr. Miglerino, and I think you pointed it out last month, ASBE always comes to us the 11th hour with the information. But I would say, to me, the board has been wanting to get out of ASBA for multiple years. I think it's moved to Kairos with the plan presented. And I think after hearing what the employees said, we should no longer require a 3% on the individual and pay 100% of the individual plan. But that's what I think we should do. I don't think we should stay with ASBE.
Which motion on the floor?
I'm just saying, Mr. Miglerino's is on the floor.
And Mr. Tracadiffer, you know, as far as ASBE goes, we don't get our rates from ASBE until after March 1st. That's a hard deadline for that, so that's why it's coming to you now.
Yeah, and you're at a disadvantage because we have 30 days to put everything together.
And get contact.
And I know we've talked about.
committee,
And I know we've talked about, I know we've made mention of the fact of whether we stay as a member of ASBA. Finish up ASBA for the rest of the year, we just took the policy service, and then we would be done after this year, moving to a self-funded healthcare opportunity.
Yeah, we just want to be sure that Mr. Ramirez was okay with my amending that to include that we do self-insurance next year when we do this. And I direct the superintendent to.
And then case in point that our healthcare is one of the highest concerns of our employees.
Huge.
So I think that's, that interruption would be.
So here's the motion on the table, motion to approve the employee health benefits plan is presented for the 24-25 fiscal year. Direct the superintendent to pursue a self-funded employee benefits plan beginning the 2025-2026.
I'm good with that.
Yes, I second that because that encompasses all of our concerns. We're all interested in knowing more of that. Yes.
Any other discussion? So this forces us to stay with ASBA another year.
We'll vote. Let's find out.
It just popped up.
Are we done, or do you want to continue with the dog visitation? You're not, we're done, okay. So thank you.
Yep, waiting for them to start.
Members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Spurgeon, colleagues, community members, thank you very much for allowing us to make a presentation on our employee stipends and salaries for next year. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Larry Weeks and also Ms. Marcia Rodriguez. And actually, Kathy, Dr. Spurgeon, we've been meeting and talking about this for about 5 to 6 weeks. The difficulty of why it would seem it would take so long to look through where we are currently this year. And then also where we're going for next year is that we're all fractional employees. And so we're coming in for little pieces of time. We're looking at data. We're trying to make the best estimate, best guess as we're going forward for the best recommendation. So I do like to thank everybody for all of our little half hour here, hour there, 2 hour there over the last 5, 6 weeks. So let me just start with just a little summary of where we are. Back in December, presented on the December budget revision using an ADM of about 6,500, and that brought us an M&O budget limit up almost to $54 million. Looking at May's budget revision, we are now looking at an estimated ADM of 8,500. That changes every 2 weeks. I think I talked to ADE twice today. I think they've talked to ADE a few times today as we're trying to work out and look at some of those challenges. And I think you have a meeting next week or the following week with ADE to even continue our conversation with ADM. It is a little confusing with some of the new changes in business rules that they implemented. And then also a lot of the member districts are coming in and the data is not as clean. And so some is it duplicate? Is it not duplicate? Is it data? So they're having to do a lot of information, dig down. And I know you're meeting with our assist person and going through that. So with that though, that creates for me a little uncertainty. I've seen a report where it was 8,800. I've seen a report 5,900 if we go back to November. And so we are looking, I did run and I saw a report twice that was at 8,500 and I said, hey, that wins the game if it's the number of times that it was selected. So, and then we did talk a little bit internally, looking at the 8,800 did look like there was a duplicate of a lot of fractional ADMs and full-time students that would bring it down 200 to 300. So Marcy separately came and said, I think it's around 8,500. So now that's the third time I've heard 8,500. So we're looking, and part of this is important because in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have to start working on the budget revision that come back to you that meeting in May to make the budget revision change. So we are sticking with 8,500.
I would like to say that based on my analysis, it doesn't look like it's necessarily a problem with our financial system, our SIS system. It really is a combination of a change in business rules from ADE, some recent recoding of how students are placed in the ADE system, and some confusion in some of the member districts. So that's where I'm seeing kind of the crux of these problems. But we're fairly confident that between now and the May revision, we're going to hover around this 8,500 ADM figure.
Can you talk just a little bit about the changes in the business rules so I kind of know what that means?
So they went basically from a traditional model of attendance and enrollment to a instructional hours model. And Stephen really is the expert at all of this. But that changes slightly how the formula is developed and how the member districts report the data through the system to the central hub, which is West-MEC. And then it's our responsibility to take that data and push it up to ADE. And then, of course, I don't know that you've been told, maybe you have, that in the next year, that member districts will be submitting their own data to ADE directly. So we'll see how that change process will affect the overall ADM calculation. We're hoping that by making this data upload in smaller chunks, it'll be easier for ADE to manage and to work with the member districts individually, along with West-MEC, to provide clean data that's then regurgitated and recycled back to West-MEC in a format that we'll use to develop the budget and budget modifications. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for just taking a little bit of time on that, because if you remember the last presentation, this is the foundation of our budget. what is our ADM, so it does warrant a little more time, sorry.
How many students do we actually
Sir,
with that ADM?
Mr. Chairman, I just got corrected, members of the board. I was gonna say 40,000. I think I just heard 47,000 students that are coming in and out, but we're getting fractional enrollments in ADM from each one of those.
And Ms. Boozum, so for all the students, again, that are at the high schools, we get a 0.25 for them, the fractional piece. Then for every student that's on a central campus, we get a 0.75. So the real answer to us moving forward to keep our budget moving in a positive direction is just keep adding programs for central campuses, because we get 3 times the money we get from what we get on the campuses at the high schools.
Well, I would expect with our new campus that we're gonna be getting a lot of, probably like another 37,000. Yeah, opportunities, really.
Well, we'll get, what'll probably happen with our new campus, you gotta figure probably in the 2,000 to 3,000 more student range. And then with our programs at Agua Fria, our new programs at the Northeast Campus, our expansion at the Southwest Campus. So within the next probably 3 years, you're looking at probably, I don't know, maybe 3,000 to 4,000 or more students at the 0.75 level versus the 0.25 level, which is significant. That's how you maintain a budget. You gotta continue to increase these programs as the member districts are increasing theirs as well. But this is where you get the money.
It's, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so just continuing, so we do think this is gonna be increasing the budget by $13 million. It is primarily due to our member districts. And so their ADM is what is growing. Our central is staying about the same right now currently. So yes, we do need to, we get more money from it, we need to increase that. But right now, what increased from December to now is the member districts enrollment went up, those 0.25s. Now, this is the first estimate. I do throw estimates out there. I round down. I think I've already seen a number that Larry had larger. And if you look at what later on, you'll see a benefit number where I am much higher than what the last presentation. I round up on expenses and down on revenues because you never know what's going to happen when the final dust settles on everything. So I'm projecting around 67. So that's our M&O. So that gets us through this year. Our district additional assistance, so our capital, not going to change because that does not use current year funding, that uses prior year funding. So it's going to be about the same that it is right now. The classroom site fund budget, this is a big change. And so we did have the 32 and I kept it directly the same as what we adopted the budget from. But as we're going to be doing the May budget revision, what we've been looking into and exploring and verifying, which is that budget will move down to about $4.5 million. And that is because as we verified with ADE, CTED calculation or ADM calculation for classroom site fund and the instructional improvement fund uses central ADM only for the calculation. It does not use all the member districts. So that 8,800 or 8,500, which would be for next year, that also previous year, is not included. It is only the 1,600 that are at the central campus. When you look at that, the revenues are projected to be around 1.3, maybe 1.4 million this year. That has us resetting our budget, our classroom site fund budget from 32 million down to about 4.5 million for this year.
You see that on the May revision.
See that?
But I will tell you that we left no stone unturned trying to figure this out, the 3 of us. Because we couldn't believe the numbers. So we took a look and we kept digging, and this is where we're at.
I would also say that as we're looking, 4.5 million, we're not overcommitted. If you look at the AFR last year, we spent about $1.4 million. It will go up a little bit. I think your performance pay that you adopted has a little bit of an increase, and we do see some professional development commitments out of there, some additional commitments. So it could be around 1.8, 1.9, maybe 2 million as the final expenses in the classroom site fund. And so you are going a little bit above revenue, but you're staying within your budget. And so you're, I don't know, 600,000-700,000 above. That gives a 4 or 5 year burn rate. If I would say that if you keep everything the same, you'll have to make a big hard decision in 6 years because you'll be out of money, but you have enough for the next few years for all the commitments that you made in that fund. Any questions on that big change? So looking at next year, we then start looking, of course, normally I would not go to CJ Williams on a lot of things, but he did decide to wear a jacket today. So I said, hey, what's going on with the budget? And so he said, don't expect anything more than the 2% increase to the base support level right now.
So even though there's lots of other little tiny things that are in there, maybe could happen, and who knows what happens in the budget negotiation in the 2 a.m. in the morning. We are only looking at that 2% increase. That does translate to about 1.1, almost $1.2 million. Remember, we do share that with our member districts, and so we are also looking to increase the contribution to the member districts this year, and then that'll translate into also next year. So we have to take that into consideration. Utility rates, if you've seen APS, SRP, water rates, everything's going up, nothing's going down. So we have to look and estimate that. Our benefit cost, that's where she has a lower, I round up and say, use the higher, because I try to take it off the table before everybody tries to spend it. And so here's a little preview. As we're looking at all that revenue coming in, we're also trying to balance what our expenses, and we are looking at a 4% increase in compensation. There will also be some additional staffing requests as we're sitting with the staff and going through some. They're looking at adding different programs, adding maybe I don't want to say any positions because I don't know what's been revealed. I don't want to say any, but as soon as I hear something, what I'm trying to track is if it's not in the system now, there's a cost going forward, and I try to identify that cost, but there is some savings. So we do have some vacant positions, so there'll be a little bit of offsetting savings on some of that. So we do try to look at that, and then talking with program costs expansion. Really at the central program, at any program we add at the central campuses is really saving money in this sense, because you're bringing in a lot more revenues than the costs are coming in. So we really want to push to those central. Now for salary increase, the first thing we do look at, and a few weeks ago was, hey, what are other districts doing? You know, I am coming from the Tolleson Union High School District, and so we have already approved an 8%. That is, people do get a little crazy when they think, oh my gosh, look at the raises you've been giving. Think about 8 years ago, we're below state average and everything. So we started at a lower place and have done about a 56% raise over the last 7 years. But so we're a little bit of an anomaly. Agua Fria is looking at a 2%, Buckeye Union, 5% for classified, 2% certified, 1% admin. And then we have a series of to be determined. Every time I contacted every one of them, they were still in their process, their budget negotiations, their IBNA or their meet and confer process, whatever it is. I did ask them, I know we're on TV and I don't want to say anything, commit them, but I was just asking, is anybody going above 2%? Very few, you know, you're talking PB with the declining enrollment and stuff. They have other challenges. There is not a lot, and you see Glendale Union at 2%. A lot of people are just, that's their default right now. So I don't, who knows what the negotiations end out to be, but I don't see too many going above the 2%. Historically, just to provide, we did ask, hey, what have we done here in the past? So this is just a historical reference by classification of employee, what did the board has approved over the last 5 years. And so you can see that as a reference point. And then here's the stipend list. Wanted to just put it all out there. As we talk, a lot of our practice is make sure board approved stipend lists. So we try to include that whenever we're talking about salaries and compensation. So this is really continue with just these stipend lists as they are listed right here.
I keep asking, I wanted to see the comparison of last year to this year. Are there any changes to the stipend? Because
It is included in the administrative contract.
because I looked and I kept getting 24, 25.
There's a box, there's.
I already did it for you. Yeah, there's just one there was one that was taken off, everything else is the same.
They're pretty much all the same. And there's that's increased. So these are the same.
It's all the same except for the strike through was taken off.
Yeah, so everything's the same. So that was just my simple question. So so what's the reason to increase work-based learning by $500? He said it just went up $500.
Yeah, from 2000.
It should be exactly the same.
It should be the same. Let me look at it.
No,
Okay, well, he's telling me it went up $500, so.
Which one is it?
Work-based learning. Work-based learning.
Yeah, I have it at 2,000 for last year. 2023, April. Unless this was updated after.
No, it would have been approved by the board.
Would have been updated after as a part of the
It does have to be approved by the board, so.
So if it was
It should have
approved by
been
the board, it's
$2,500
$2,000, then
It was 2,500 last year.
No.
I was positive it was.
Oh, this is different.
Yes, we're pulling the, compared to the red line version right now. Yeah, okay, bring it today.
okay. So his memo from April 5th says 2,000 of last year.
2,500 is a mistake. It should not have gone up.
I don't see the balance is.
What exactly is that though? What activities does that cover, the work-based learning advisory council?
It's the extra responsibilities to actually assign the students. We have, Susan Leon does our work-based learning here in the district. And she put some information out because I didn't really know how many businesses we work with where our students go to work. And it's over 200 now. So over 200 business and industries actually take our students for work-based learning. And there's extra duties assigned to that. And that's where that little bit of extra money comes in for all the work that has to be done to get our students in those opportunities to complete their work-based learning.
And so let the board know how work-based learning works, is there's a lot of reportables at DOL, Department of Labor, to participate, and it is pretty extreme. Is very detailed reporting, so I do know that. I just didn't know it cost that much. So that's like a bonus that they get for taking on that extra duty.
And the work-based learning, so to go into a little bit more detail, so work-based learning as well as the CTSO is built into our teacher evaluation system, so just there's a whole rubric that compensates the time outside of contract that our teachers are working on, planning their advisory council meetings, scheduling those visits, going out and meeting with those industry partners, recruiting advisory council members to become part of their advisory council. So it's compensation for all of those extra duties, as well as the paperwork, the agreements we have to have with those, when we're sending a student out on an externship, all of that takes extra time. So that's what that stipend compensation is.
Is that additional to, like, let's say they're a teacher during the day, that's like an additional duty? So
Yes,
they're
sir.
teaching a class and then this is something that they volunteer to do extra?
Yes,
Okay.
this is a teacher responsibility above and beyond what they're doing in the classroom. That's the reason for the extra stipend. But just, there's a whole rubric of expectations they have to meet in order to achieve that. It's not just a given.
Thank you for that email.
Get that clarified?
Yeah, I got it clarified, but because this is part of the recommendation, I would recommend until we verify that we keep it the same level as the FY 24-25,
stays the same.
24, so it stays the same. So that would be an amendment to this recommendation to make sure that we stipulate that at the end of it.
The intent was to maintain the same level.
Yeah. Yes, no increases on that. So here is the final recommendation, which I already told you, the 4% salary increase for all employees that excludes substitute teachers and temporary employees. And that also would mean that we would increase our hiring schedules, placement schedules by 1%. So that would not be the equal 4%. That means we're valuing people that are here now more than trying to recruit people out there. So we put in a premium on our people here. And then also our quality of life stipend. Next year, that amount that is on that stipend, we would then move into the base, and then the future years, that stipend would go away.
So how many employees do we have on that stipend?
Stipend.
No, the quality of life stipend.
How many quality of life?
I don't know.
Employees are our workers. Put it in, be done with it.
But it's employees that were hired prior to.
2020.
It was to supplement family health insurance that we gave one year. And it's just, it propagated and we never seemed to end it.
Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman. Sorry,
Is my hair that long?
My eyes are that bad. This would essentially be getting it, but it would be grandfathered in all those that are currently getting it. It would go away and no future people would be getting it going forward. It would clean it up a little bit in that sense.
I would prefer, instead of putting it into the base, putting it into benefits for employees. And so.
Okay, so I did get that number from our coordinator. There are 76 employees that get the 2250 because they're 12-month employees, and then we have 56 that are getting the $22,025 because they're 11-month employees.
So how is that possible? That's 140 employees. And we have 190 on our health plan. That means, and we have over 50 that are taking family coverage. Some of those should have dropped off.
That's part of the analysis I'll be doing for you.
Okay.
That is correct. And also you had mentioned that something about the quality of life stipend was for health insurance, but my understanding was it was also put in place because of in 2008, employees didn't receive a raise, and so
None
they
of the
did.
member districts were providing a raise. So Mr. Donovan suggested we provide $1,500 for employees to pay for family coverage insurance. And then it continued the next year. He's like, oh, well, let's raise it to $2,250 because we can't get a raise. We would give the employees $2,250 towards healthcare costs to buy the insurance. And then it turned out none of the employees bought the insurance. And then everyone we hired, that was the 2008, 2009 raise. And then everyone we hired after that got that employee's raise, which really was not fair to the people who, so everyone came in, got this. So then the board recognized, it's like, wait a minute, that was raises for 10 years ago. We should stop this practice. And so that's why we stopped the practice, was that was a raise we gave employees now 15 years ago. And so that's where, how do we equitably end that? That's why some people don't get it. That's why when health insurance costs went way up one year, we moved to the medium plan, is we didn't want to end it for the other employees. We just kept the medium plan for all new employees.
We've been given that for the last 15 years, you said, about 15 years? The same amount?
Yeah.
It hasn't changed. My new employees aren't eligible.
Oh, okay.
They haven't been for about 4 years.
Oh, okay, so just grandfather to those who have been receiving it.
So in light of last year, if you remember, we talked earlier, Mr. Shuck asked the question. Folks could lose that if they chose to go into the plan, correct? So that was a choice, so they could keep that or go on the plan, so.
And that was the question, like, how many employees gave that up? And
yeah,
and we're looking at that. That seemed to be so I'm gonna make a motion that we have a 4% increase, but here's how I'd like to position it. Last year, the board was, I want to say, misled by Dr. Erb. He said we didn't give a raise, and then we went and gave a second raise, and the next day we found out we gave 2 raises. I heard the board say that we want to get out of ASBA and get self-insured. So what I would propose is a 4% contract completion for next year. So everyone who was hired this year at July 1st is eligible for 4% payout at the end of June of 25. So it's basically, instead of getting paid through the year, it's a one-time payment of 4%. And what I would say is 2% of it is West-MEC being able to go self-insured for a non-ASBA member district. And the other 2% is the board being able to vote for a 2024 bond or 2025 bond. And that way, that supports your bond. Everybody knows it's important because the board has put 4%, essentially a 4% bonus for doing 2 things: getting us out of ASBA and self-funded insurance, and 2% for getting us a bond election next year.
So I would disagree with that. The salaries are for the employees and for their livelihoods. And so any kind of recommendations we have with bonuses, that's for the livelihoods. Again, we're trying to control how they spend their money. You know,
I'm not trying to control how they spend their money.
If you give someone a salary increase, who are you to recommend what they use it for?
I'm not. I'm saying we're doing a 4% bonus at the end of next year for the board getting accomplishing 2 goals that are district-wide goals.
So that's a board thing, though. I mean, for the employees,
No,
if you said for them to stay for 12 months, I get that.
Yeah, they stay for 12 months and 2%. But
so everything else is up to us. And the employees at the school right now really have nothing to do with what we're doing here.
Dr. Spurgeon, it says a bond election next year would be a godsend.
And how can an employee impact that?
Because the employees are going to be the ones that make a lot of this happen. They have to do all the legwork as far as what are the costs, where are the sites. They have to do a lot of procurement information
The
to put into.
teachers aren't doing that though. So you're confusing an operations cost or incentive with a staff incentive. So you're confusing the two. This is for their performance. They go to work every day. They show up to work, they clock in, they do their classes, and then they go home. That's not tied to what we do to push the bonds, to get things going on an operations schedule.
This is something Dr. Spurgeon's recommending.
So that would be his bonus. That wouldn't be the bonus to the rest of the staff.
Charles, I'm a little confused too, and I'm wondering if this is adding another requirement or duty to the instructors that's not part of their contract. Now, are we putting on their shoulder now the task of getting a bond passed or
No,
putting a bond?
because
I'm
the
confused.
staff here would have to get the bond, but
Yeah.
everybody works as a team. You know, you hear Dr. Spurgeon talk about the strategic plan and everybody participates in the strategic plan. The two things are the bond and the health plan.
Mr. Chairman,
But numbers are one thing, and over the 8 or 9 years, I've praised you for being brilliant at numbers. But people are included also. Our leader, our staff. You putting restraints and constrictions on things isn't helpful. You think you have always a better idea, but those ideas are based upon numerical trivia, and it's not unimportant for us as a board to control the cost of the taxpayers. I don't shriek that for a minute. But we also have to think about people, leadership. We elected
We
Dr.
hired.
Spurgeon.
Hired.
Okay, we hired him to lead us. He's done a great job. We've hired the staff. They've done a great job. We win more awards nationally and everything else. And what do we sit here and do? We figure out a way to screw them over.
It's not to screw them over.
Yeah, it is, Frank.
It is.
Just do whatever. Make your motion.
If you don't mind, I do have to say, it is illegal for employees of the organization to actually be advocating for the passage of a bond.
No, I'm not saying advocating for the passage of the bond. I'm saying for us to.
I'd just like to be on record that we will not
For
be.
us to be able, for the goal is to be prepped for a bond. So I'll withdraw the bond. I think with what happened last year, we did 2 raises, the board was misled. Did anyone feel like the board, you know, we all thought we passed the raise the first time and we left and we're like, we were told we didn't pass a raise. And then I called Dr. Erb the next day and he was told to issue the contracts right away before the board had a chance to correct their mistake. So there was clearly an effort to push that forward. So with being 2 raises last year, I would just then recommend maybe a 4% contract completion for next year. That wouldn't be added to the base because we added substantially more. Everybody else is at 2%. And I think this is a happy medium.
Okay, made it work. So we gave 2 raises last year?
Yes.
Well, it was a percentage plus a fixed amount.
Oh, so there were 2 separate subjects. One was a raise and one was an incentive, right?
We did what we thought was a raise and we said 7,000.
Presented, what was the subject of that amount? Was it for salary increases or was it for incentives for performance?
It was a $7,000 salary increase across the board. And then the board was said, no, you didn't give everybody a raise.
Okay.
And then we voted on a 4.25% at the beginning of the year and another 4.25%, which was an 8.5% raise. And so the board passed that thinking we hadn't raised a $7,000 across the board. And then the next day we found out we did both. We did 2 salary adjustments.
When we voted on it, apparently we must have.
Well, we said we voted on it and then Dr. Erb sat there and said, no, you just didn't give a raise.
Yeah, it was a percentage raise and then there was an incentive to sign the contract.
Right, so there was an incentive that wasn't a salary increase.
That's the 8.5%.
Yeah.
So you're talking different types of incentives. If it's a pay salary increase, that's based on whatever our marketabilities for that individual in the workforce, to be able to increase them to a marketability line, whatever that number is, or whatever it is that they're doing for the school. If it's a pay-based performance increase, then that's because they really did a great job. They want some awards, their kids are high graduates, and we're trying to find a way to incentivize them. If it's a bonus, then we didn't want to do it on a salary increase, we just want to give them cash up front. So there's many different conversations.
That was based upfront both.
Was there a second?
So the 4.25 was if they signed their contract. And then they got an additional 4.25 if they showed up in August, so it was a retention amount of money for. And again, we're sitting at 1.5, openings right now. And I say this all the time, and I think you've heard me say it in my books, that excellence has a cost. And for us to continue to maintain West-MEC and do the great things that we continue to do, I mean, it just costs money, not outrageous money, not unreasonable money, things that we've looked at that we can afford. Because I'm not gonna leave the board into a place where we can't afford something. But if you look at the things that we've been able to accomplish, I mean, last year we set records with our performance, district records. And our first semester of this year is 38% above our credentials achieved than last year's record-setting pace. And so, again, I think our teachers and our staff have done a tremendous job, and I think I would do myself in the district a disservice not to recommend something that I think is appropriate. I mean, the cost of a living index is above 3%. And when you look at the actual money that you get, when you take out ASRS, you take out taxes, I mean, it's not really a lot of money after you bring that home. And so my recommendation would be at the 4% level.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to call for the question. I completely agree with Dr. Spurgeon and Mr. Straight. I know we have a difference here, but sometimes we have to think about the people.
And I appreciate that, Jim. What I think is unfair is when you do a flat across the board. I think about Louisa, who worked all through Christmas. Can I finish my statement? I would like to not be interrupted. Louisa worked through Christmas because of the way we set the calendar, and she went above and beyond. And I believe when you provide raises, you should rank people. People who go above and beyond get more than the people who did the bare minimum. There's no incentive for an employee to go above and beyond because everybody got 4%. So some people who go above and beyond, like the example of Louisa, if you rate her with some of her peers, I would think she would be up here. And that would warrant, even when I was at the state, when I was a high performer, I got a higher raise than the non-performers. And here it's a flat. And we have good people, don't get me wrong, but there's other people that there's no incentive for them to do more.
Mr. Straka, but my understanding is that we have separate from this salary increase, we have a performance pay plan. That's separate, that bases, that takes that into consideration.
But we don't provide any money out of that.
But that's only for the eligible.
I'll second the motion.
So for an example, one of the things we were considering doing is taking a look at a performance-based plan for administrators and potentially other employee groups, which would give them the separation from those that would have a higher performance score than someone else. But for right now, that doesn't exist for them because that money is only for teachers, counselors, and school. So what's the third category? Yeah, social. There's only 79 employees were eligible last year. The rest of them don't qualify for those funds.
Okay.
Mr. Straight, we're an institution. We're far more than a group of numbers. And I called for the question.
So, well, there's a second.
Yeah, Barbara said that.
Second.
I have a question. Why can't we have a performance plan with the 4% I think that we should have a performance plan for all of our employees because we do have stellar employees. We do. And I love them and they should be compensated, but there are those that don't. And they shouldn't just get that 4% just granted to them just because they're breathing.
Mr. Hicks, you know more about Arizona law than I do. Are all eligible employee groups eligible for a performance plan, including support staff, or is that only certificated staff?
For the classroom site fund, it is limited.
No, not classroom site fund.
Yeah, you can do your own performance plan.
So that's something that we could bring to you for each employee group.
What I would say, what the state has done in the past, when I was at Access, was 20% got a 5% raise, 20% got a 4% raise, 20% got a 3% raise, 2%, 1%. And it's up to the leadership to determine who got what percent of raise. And the board could pass something like that. You know who the high performers are. They're the ones that deserve more. You know who are the ones that are doing a decent job, and you know the ones that need to be incentivized to do, you didn't do much this year.
Right.
You did the bare minimum to get by, you get 1%.
And I think that.
So I would say right now with the state, as a state employee, the only way we get raises nowadays, we don't get raises every year, is when the governor says everyone's getting a 2%. So it's a flat rate. What we do with our maps, like right now, we're going through maps, which is our performance appraisal. That's a bonus. That's not a raise. So we'll get 2,500 or 3,000 out that maps process. But that's not a raise, because the governor is the only one that could really initiate a raise across the board to all the departments. Unless you get promoted, unless you move positions, but we're not talking about that. So, and it's the quality increase, so those kinds of increase happens, again, that's state government, you can find it on ASRS or one of the ADOA websites on how we pay our state employees right now. Do I think it's fair? No.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my experience, I've been in a place where you've had a performance play, another thing, and it's based on their evaluation. Nobody gets a 0, nobody gets a 1. Everybody feels the pressure that I'm taking money out of you, so if you do not have a good, robust evaluation tool, it will fail. I would not put that in place until you have a good, I don't know what your evaluation is.
It's a long run. Well, Frank, you got the first three mentions.
And
You
you
have to
have to let
train up.
employees know ahead of time, you can't just spring it
You
on
need to
them.
make sure people know what they're doing.
No, yeah, that's
So what is the motion?
Approve the recommendation.
And I
You
second.
made a mention that, I think.
I had made a motion first, and there was no second.
Correct.
Oh, you seconded my motion?
Oh, his motion. If, I think she seconded mine.
Yeah.
We go with the,
Because there's lots of conversations going on.
Okay,
I apologize.
so let's go back, I guess, let's start from the beginning, start with your motion, anybody seconding your motion? Oh, you withdrew it?
Yeah, I said I withdraw it and just make it a flat contract fulfillment of 4%.
Motion.
And that was what I said a little bit ago, I thought.
Yes.
Is there a second to just do a flat contract fulfillment for 4%?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask that we're also included in that to keep the work-based learning advisory council at the same level it is this current year?
It should have just 2,000.
And it should have been 2,000, so the stipends would say the same as the previous year. So continue, so we would, a 4% contract fulfillment for anyone hired July 1st of 2023, and the stipends would continue at the same rate as the previous year.
Oh, they're flat, so anyway.
And I would second that motion, except that I would like to put an amendment on the quality of life stipend. I think that we should get rid of that.
So what they're saying is they would roll it into,
So. That's, Mr. Chairman, so I didn't interrupt. I think that's what we're saying, but I think I heard something different. Are you recommending to roll it into their base or to get rid of it, eliminate it?
Eliminate the quality of life.
but now roll it in the base, eliminate it.
Yes.
okay, so let's first vote on that amendment, which is eliminate the. So where would we move it to? Because I don't want to just take it away from, would we move it to benefits or would we just like take it away? That's what I'm not clear of what the motion was.
Because we do that.
The quality of life stipend. Improve all the other stipends with the exception of quality of life. It was something that was started in 2008. Because people were getting raises to cover further health benefits. It's, no longer the case.
How about this? Do we just continue the quality of life for one more year and then reevaluate it next year?
Well, it's going away.
It's going away. So that she's saying to take it away, but not do anything.
Yeah,
So
It's a good point. If we move the quality of life stipend into base salary, it needs to be removed from the stipend list so that you're not doing both. Thank you.
So removing it to the base for people who are eligible. And we'll determine who that eligible is in the next couple of days. So I guess the first thing is the vote on the amendment, Ms. Brown. Is,
Motion to approve a flat 4% contract fulfillment. How would you like contract fulfillment? Increase
award
award
to be paid at the end of June
to be paid
25.
It's just a one-time stipend.
I'll pay it at once.
2025. And approve stipends as presented with the correction of the work-based learning stipend to reflect current rate of $2,000 and move quality of life stipend to the base and remove it from the stipend list. Did I catch everything?
Is that everything?
How does that, explain to me again, moving the stipend to the base, what does that mean?
That means people who have $2,000. It will now get rolled into their salary and they will now have to take, do they get ASRS taken out of that stipend now? Okay, so it's essentially,
Just
it's disappearing here.
Thousand, it means they get 20,000 and
Yeah.
2,000 more, 42,000.
The stipend goes away, but their salary goes up the amount of their stipend. Yes.
In addition to the 4%.
Yeah.
But they've already been getting that money for the last 50
Correct.
years.
Some people are getting it 10 years, some people are getting it 15 years, some people don't get it.
And then
We're
it
just
is.
trying, so the recommendation is, get it off the books.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. At the end of the day, it's a, okay.
So if it.
So the motion's on the floor, 4%. Any more discussion or do we call for the question?
Say that again.
So it's 4%.
Motion to approve the flat 4% contract fulfillment. And then hold on, it says to be paid at the end of June, so hold on, I'm gonna have to reset that, see if it pulls up, there we go. To be paid at the end of June 2025.
Oh, that's where
I would not do that.
So we're in board discussion. I want to.
So I have another question then. So on the 4%, that is at the end of their contract, not walking into a new contract.
At the end of their contract, they get a 4% bonus. So if they make
$80,000 contract, they get 4%.
3,200.
The end.
Correct.
Yeah. So in June,
At the
that
end of
pays for a nice
June.
vacation.
Yeah, the recommendation was to pay it throughout the year as your regular pay.
Yeah, the regular pay. So it's regular, so the difference would be with your regular pay versus getting it once at the end of the year.
Right, so the incentive is stick around all year. Don't leave mid-year.
Dr. Spurgeon,
Stupid.
I have to say in good conscience, I would not recommend that plan. That means that
So
people would not see an
so
increase.
you're out of order. The board is in discussion. And it's inappropriate for the public, once we go into a motion, for us to have everybody else join in. It's the board to discuss. We're in board discussion.
Well, there's a problem with that. I mean, that's again, back to micromanagement. We're an organization. So here, no, wait, I let you finish before. I apologize. Right, but we're West-MEC School District. We're good because we do things right. We don't figure out a way to screw somebody over. Wait, I'm not done. I'm not done. Keep on. There are things that happen in these people's lives that are legitimate. They start the year out, they have full intentions. And then stuff comes up. You know that, he knows that, they know that, everybody knows that. It's just another way of tweaking something that might not work out the way you want it to work. I just heard a little while ago, Dr. Spurgeon talking about how we've been retaining people. Our job as a board should incorporate retaining people, thinking about people, including them in what we do, not trying to figure out a way to squeeze them. Things come up for people. And if they've done a good job, halfway through the year, they gotta go, you know, it's a more fair way. Last thing, and I'll, Frank, you come up with these things, and then sometimes you put them in like you thought the child insurance thing was going to be a bonanza. They don't always work out. Stuff happens. So when I closed up my company December 31st, the name of the company was Round Wheel. The real reason it was Round Wheel, they work good. The square ones and the rectangle ones don't work so well. That's all I have to say. Thank you for allowing me to finish.
It's not the first time we have done this. We have had contract fulfillments in previous years.
I'm not saying.
And so it's just, we hear that we don't want to lose instructors. This is an incentive to keep the instructors throughout the year. Because if we lose an aviation instructor midway through, Ms. Wiley, you've had your hand up. I'll let you.
Give them a raise. We don't need to put any restrictions on it. Just do it.
Well, we have a vote. Yeah,
We're supposed to be voting.
Yeah.
I look at it this way, whether you piecemeal 4% per paycheck, I'd rather, from it myself, rather have a 4% bonus at the end of the year. It's not screwing people out of money.
In today's inflation, the heck it isn't.
I mean, you talk about Arizona is now one of 20 states that are in a recession. Our unemployment has gone up. So.
Yeah, but it hasn't gone up that much. Our unemployment is still relatively low compared to the rest of the country.
Compared to our record low.
Well, because it's gonna go up. It was historically low.
But it went
No
up.
one keeps it historically
It
low.
went up too much in the last 12 months. So they've triggered that Arizona, California is in a recession.
We always follow the US average. That's the leader, and we're below the US average. So that's any economist, you can call my office and ask our economists.
So look at
that question and they'll tell you the same thing.
Look at the seam rule. He's an economist out of the East Coast and Arizona, California, Montana, a couple of the oil states and New York and everybody above that is all in a recession according to his calculations.
I would have to defer to Arizona Office of Economics Opportunities data group and ask them for that information. I've never.
Has everybody voted?
No,
Well, no,
I voted.
but I don't see it there.
Hit your refresh.
Because if this fails, then we can have another motion, right?
Yes.
You can give me a verbal, Barb, I don't have a vote for you. Verbal yes or no. It's not coming up.
Hit your refresh button and you need to log in.
I've hit it 3 times.
You have to be on the action item.
But you have to be on you have to be on item number 4. You can give me a verbal yes or no.
Like.
Here we go. Motion fails.
I want to move to approve the employee stipends and the 4% salary increase as noted in here.
And I put with the exception of the work-based learning stipend to reflect the current $2,000.
Yes. Yes.
I'll second.
And but I would like to see next year a performance-based plan for administrators, for everybody else who's not currently covered by the CSM performance plan.
And when you say a performance plan, can you define that how we allocate the raise or what does that mean?
No, for performance pay, not the raise. Mhm.
So it would be a separate than a raise or in place of a
Yeah, we
raise.
would consider both separately. We would consider a raise and then a performance pay plan separately.
And establish a performance pay plan for all employees, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for all employees.
Currently, all employees are the ones that are not eligible. for
The ones who are not eligible for the CSM performance plan.
Okay, so we have a motion by Juan. And a second by Mr. Garcia. So we have motion to approve employee stipends as listed with the correction of the work-based learning stipend to reflect current rate of 2,000 and a 4% salary increase for all employees excluding substitute teachers and temporary employees for the 24-25 school year, and establish a performance paid plan for employees who are not eligible for 301 monies.
Get rid of the, yeah, that first stipend,
Quality of life.
And then you also want to remove the quality of life stipend?
Oh, that's already, yeah, that's already part of the recommendation to get rid of it.
So, question, so what happens if we remove the quality of life stipend for those people who aren't getting family coverage and they come back and get family coverage? Is that just a bonus $2,200 for them?
We can certainly, because it was in the board meetings, approved by the board last year, if an employee did fall through the cracks, we could recoup those losses because it was approved by the board.
So even if the future, if they come back this year or next year, we would recoup that. Okay.
I edited it. Hold on just I updated it to include removing the quality of life stipend and moving it to the base pages like the original motion.
Yeah. Could you repeat that, Louisa?
Motion to approve employee stipends is listed with the correction of the work-based learning stipend to reflect current rate of 2,000, move quality of life stipend to the base and remove it from the stipend list, and a 4% salary increase for all employees excluding substitute teachers and temporary employees for the 24-25 fiscal year, and establish a performance plate for employees who are not eligible for particular one monies.
Sorry, one thing that was not included is, the other bullet point here was the salary schedules. We were going to increase that by 1%. That's part of the recommendation.
Because recommendation was there.
Yeah, adjusting the salary ranges.
To accept the recommendation.
Just the salary ranges?
Yeah,
Oh.
the recommendation.
Part of the recommendation.
1% salary increase, the hiring. No, I.
You know, again, I'm probably gonna abstain, and it's just, I say the same thing. We have stellar employees and we have non-stellar employees, and it's a disincentive to, I go back to Louisa, working through the Christmas holiday. And we're giving her the same raise as everybody who didn't get the paperwork into her and then she had to work through the holidays. I mean, I feel like we're not rewarding merits based on efforts.
I agree 100%.
And every time I bring this up, we say, we're gonna do something next year. It's like the health insurance.
Yeah.
Every year, we're gonna do something next year. And next year, when we have this conversation, just remember, we had the same conversation for the last several years.
You know, I'm fine with giving, they can recommend something. We've recommended this be moved or that be moved and they get. I don't have a problem, we've done it.
That's why we're asking to create that performance speed plan for next year.
I don't disagree with that.
Did everybody vote?
No, I have to go home, how my horse is.
Right now I'm logged out.
As recommended.
At that 1%.
You put a new one out?
The one that I added this, so it says motion to approve employee stipends is listed with the correction of the work-based learning stipend to reflect current rate of 2,000. Move quality of life stipend to the base and remove it from the stipend list. Approve a 1% salary increase to the hiring/placement schedules. Approve a 4% salary increase for all employees excluding substitute teachers and temporary employees for the 24-25 fiscal year, and establish a performance pay plan for employees who are not eligible for 301.
So if I already voted on that.
Didn't we already vote on that?
Yours isn't coming up.
I know, I don't know why it's not coming up. He's just refreshed it too. If I refresh, the current votes are gonna go away. And I have a vote unless you guys wanna revote.
Yeah, let's revote, because we might have been voting on the old motion, the incomplete motion.
Here we go.
Now it's on open for online.
The other one's void, right?
Yeah, the other one didn't. So here it is with everything on this. Linda and Robert.
Want to make sure, reading the fine print.
Read the fine print. Hey, no. Hey. Motion passes.
Future agenda items. Thank you.
Thank you.
Future agenda items.
And the future agenda items would be to, it's probably already on the agenda item, but to add a presentation and report on moving us to a self-funded plan. And also a presentation on the creation of a performance pay plan for folks who are not eligible for the 301 minis.
The budget revision.
What was the last time we did a budget? I can't remember. Was it?
We have one next month.
Next one, we're gonna get a budget.
It will have the revision. We had one in December. I think we had one in October for the previous year, the final revision of the fiscal year ending last June. And December was the first revision, May is the second, and October will be the third and final revision to correct the.
June will be the new budget.
Yeah, so, and then you're remembering numbers from last year and this year, and we gotta pass it by. We'll present it in June and vote on it in July. And we have to do it by like the 10th, or else the legislature slaps our hand. But they won't give the forms to administration until like July 3rd. State government at its finest. Just what Juan brought up.
Need a motion to adjourn the meeting, please? I'll vote to do it. Can I have a second?
Moved a second. All right, we'll stand adjourned.